boosting your employability skills, inspiring your future. At the outset, I wish to thank the presenters for accepting our invitation. We recognize that you have taken the time and made the extra effort to prepare your presentations, and for this, we are truly grateful. Thank you, the participants, for showing up on time and for seeing the value in this workshop. In this workshop, you'll be exposed to several career readiness activities. We'll see you getting prepared for the interview, what to expect when you actually get to the interview, what to do when you get that job, and then lastly, how to become a professional engineer. We will also see that these sessions are designed to prepare you for the life of work and beyond. It is my hope that at the end of today's session, you'll be better prepared to meet that transition from education to employment. Again, thank you for participating in this employability workshop, and I hope you find it productive and informative. I now invite Joelle to do the opening prayer.
Recording in progress.
Okay, so good morning, everyone. Please bow your heads in prayer. Dear God, thank you for allowing us to meet on this beautiful Thursday morning to share our knowledge and expertise with one another in this workshop. May you guide the activities, participants, and the presenters so that the workshop is effective and successful. May we also retain the invaluable information that we will receive and for us to actually apply it in our lives. God grant us your wisdom and understanding while guiding us during and even after the workshop. This we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Joelle. I will now turn over the floor to our moderators, Mrs. Marvet Hall and Mr. Michael James.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Where is my party for the day? Mr. James, are you here?
I'm here. Hear me?
Yes, we are hearing you clearly.
It is good to see you, Mrs. Grant.
Oh, yes.
And it's another year of our employability seminar, right? Where this year we're looking at the theme, boosting your employability skills and inspiring your future, right? We would have started, I think last year or when the pandemic started, we shifted to online and everything, right? But could you tell us a little bit more on the background of what this employability seminar was about or is about?
Okay, so the first employability workshop was held in 2019, and at that time, the department, because I'm a part of the department, the chemical engineering department here at Utech, and we decided that, to get the students ready for the industry, we would host this employability workshop, prepare the chemical engineering student, but then we started to invite other students in to take part. It was conceptualized by engineer Diane Plummer and engineer Paula Henry, who were also staff within the chemical engineering department, right? So the first workshop was a thing, it was face-to-face, right before it was just pre-COVID. Face-to-face, we had people from HR, we had various engineers, and the students enjoyed it. And guess what? Everybody had a chance to dress up. We even had refreshments and we had mock interviews, and the students enjoyed it. But then we had the pandemic shift.
All right. And speaking of the pandemic shift, when we move from getting, the free food and all of that and dressing up and being a part of the thing face to face, you said we went online 2020 or 2021, right? And now fast forward to 2022 in the middle of a global pandemic where, upcoming graduates are uncertain of the future. The team, which you have mentioned before, right, felt that they could still reach final year engineering students who may be a bit apprehensive to enter the working world during this pandemic, right? And that's when the whole partnership between the School of Engineering Representative Council and your department would have formed and came together and formed, this online thing to still reach students online,
Right.
right? And the goal of this employability seminar is to prepare our final year students with information tailored for them and to provide insights on the interview preparation, interview process, and functioning on the job. Right. And for years, we've had many great speakers, many great persons from the different departments when it comes on to employability. And today's session is nothing short. We have a lot of people from different areas tailored for the different areas of our employability to come and speak to us today.
Right, right. And we have today, let me give a short rundown of what will be happening. Today we'll have the first session we will talk about preparing for the interview. So everybody can get a industry vibe, because usually persons going in the social science, like the regular admin and teaching, our interviews are different for the admin. But when it comes to industry for engineers, professional engineers there's a little tweak, there's a little difference. So first, we are going to have Miss Spike, who will talk to us about resume and CV prep. And then we will hear from Miss Diane Plummer, you know, about the online presence, because we are going where we are in the world now is almost fully online. I'm going to say that the world is functioning 75% online, and there's no turning back. So Miss Plummer will enlighten us on our online presence, and then Miss Henry will come later, Miss Michelle Henry, and talk to us about the interview day, what we do on the day of the interview. And then we will break. And after the break, we will get to speak to specialist persons. So we'll have breakout rooms, and all the chemical engineering students will talk to a chemical engineer, and the industrial, mechanical, electrical, all that will be happening. And then we will end the day with a presentation from PERB. And I hope everybody knows what PERB is, because I'm not telling you. We just might ask a question later.
No, man, they're supposed to know by now what JIE means. And I have a bias towards JIE. Most persons would know that. Most persons should know what JIE means and what PERB means by now, right? And if persons wondering about engineering and what they can do when they're graduated and how they can be acknowledged as a professional engineer, right? That session is tailored specifically for you, right? And as Mrs. Grant would have said, we'll be going through, the little things that you do before going in the interview, right? If CVs are important, if this are, all the questions that you'd have before you go into the interview, you can note them, and we'll answer those questions, and we pose it to the speaker right after she's finished presenting, right? And then we move on to, your online presence, the LinkedIn, the Twitter, the Instagram, all of your online presence. How does it matter when it comes on to your employability, right? And we go into at the interview, the things you do, what you wear and all of that. And we get into different breakout rooms where you can speak to persons specifically for your discipline, right? It is a wholesome day, and I'm glad that you would have joined us today to partake in this session, right? And I guess we can move into our first speaker, right, Mrs. Grant?
Oh, I was muted there. Oh, yes, we can. I am sure that our first speaker is ready and waiting to share with us. All right. So let me give you a little background of our first speaker. Her name is Miss Nicole Spike, and she's a HR professional in the industry. So Miss Spike is a recent graduate of the University of the West Indies and a young, vibrant human resource professional with responsibility for progressive experience in the field. She's motivated by her passion and a drive to become a prosperous and impactful human resource professional in society. So she went ahead and she completed a bachelor's in psychology rather, and a master's degree in human resource development at the UWI. She's currently the human resource officer for CEAC Outsourcing Company Limited, where she is responsible for HR support for over 50 employees. The role requires her to perform duties in various areas such as payroll, recruitment, HR administrative tasks, and to some extent, she deals with staff training. Miss Spike can be described as having varied personalities. She is also described as ambitious, goal-oriented, determined, and self-confident. She's passionate about the human resource field and believes that HR of any company is its most important asset and should be treated as such. Aside from all that has been said, Ms. Spike has kept a keen interest in project management, and she enjoys reading, watching TV series, listening to motivational speakers, and spending time with her loved ones. Now, in real engineering warlord style, let us make Miss Spike welcome. So you can now send up some heart emojis and some fire emojis in the chat. Miss Spike, the floor is yours, ma'am.
Good morning, everyone. I really appreciate those art emojis because I'm very nervous. This is my first time. Alrighty. So, as Ms. Ola said, my name is Nicole Spike, and I'm the HR officer at SEAC, so outsourcing company. SEAC Solution is our parent company, which is the engineering firm. I know most of you are aware of that company. So, can I get access to share my screen, or I should present without the PowerPoint? All right, let's get into it.
Nicole, you have access to share.
All right. All right, so I'll be presenting on preparing for an interview, specifically speaking, your resume and your cover letter. So today we'll be speaking about things to do before applying for the job, your cover letter and resume preparation, and the interview preparation. Then you'll have an opportunity to ask questions. Firstly, let's discuss the resumes. I know we're all aware of what a resume is, but for the purpose of this presentation, I'd like to reiterate what a resume is. So resume is basically a summary of the candidate's personal data and educational background and training. It also highlights the candidate's achievement. My question to you today is, what do you think is the purpose of a resume? You can go ahead and answer if you'd like. Anyone? All right, so your resume is the first impression the employer, the recruiter have of you without interacting with you. The purpose of the resume is to get you the job interview. So I know most persons are of the idea that the resume is to get you the job. You're not entirely incorrect, but the resume is to get you the job interview. It is to get you through the door to get in that job. Characteristics of a good resume. The resume should be easy to read. Remember, as HR professional, we have a lot of resume coming in to review. So you don't want a resume to be hard to understand or hard to read. So make your resume easy to read. Secondly, summarize your accomplishments, because that is the purpose of the resume along with getting the job interview. Highlight relevant experiences. So, not saying that some of your experiences are not important. However, in a practical field such as engineering, we want to see how suited you are to the position. So highlight resumes that is relevant to the industry. Your resume should be 1 to 2 pages long. As I've said before, we don't want resume 3 to 4 pages. We don't have the time. However, if you want to stand out, make your resume 1 to 2 pages long. And this one I must stress, your resume must be truthful. If we realize that you are not telling the truth on your resume, that's a done deal for us at CX Solutions. So do not list on your resume that you have a master's degree when you know you have a bachelor degree. Do not list on your resume that, yeah, I'm meticulous when you know you're not. Our process of application is a very tedious process, and trust me, we'll get the information that we need. Your resume must have impact to grab the attention of us, the recruiter or the HR professional. So make your resume attractive, truthful, and easy to read. Formatting your resume. I know, and I'm speaking from experience, that we do one resume and that's it. When we're applying for an engineering job, we send that resume. When we're applying for a customer service job, we send that resume. But my advice to you today is to format your resume in relation to the job that you're applying for. So use keywords. Majority of the big companies have the software that eliminate shortlist resumes, and this software search for keywords. So make sure that you take keywords from the job advertisement and include it in your resume. Your resume should have the contact information, your objective, which is basically a short statement that includes the job title, your career profile, summary of the skills as is expected, work experiences, and education. References. I received numerous resumes stating that references upon request. I would not advise this quote on your resume. Please list your references on your resume. A recruiter won't stop to say, all right, let me call, for example, let me call Michael and ask Michael for his references when we have tons and a lot of resumes to go through. So to make it easier for us, please list your references. Any questions? Am I going too fast? Is my pace okay?
Your pace is okay.
All right. So any questions in regards to resumes?
Just a question here.
Sure.
Yes, very good presentation so far. What do you think about persons putting their pictures on their resume?
Well, I'd advise against it, but we do not find it a problem. So if you choose to put your pictures on the resume, that's fine, but I wouldn't advise, because you don't want to think that the recruiter is recruiting you or hiring you because you're a female or because you're a male. So to desist from that, we advise that you do not include your pictures.
All right, thank you very much.
Welcome.
So I have a question.
Sure.
Read the references thing. I know persons had started to do that, right, because they're saying that a lot of times they don't know if they're considered for the position in the first place. So people would call their references and they don't know whether or not they're discarded or they're accepted based on what the reference say. And some persons have, just like how with your resume, you would want to put keywords in there for that particular advertisement. They have some persons that have different references for different jobs. So.
All right, I understand where you're getting at, but we recommend that you list the reference if we have, unless you're exceptional candidates, we'll go to the extreme to call you and ask for your reference. But if the references are not listed, we have to find the extra time to call you and say, hey, please send us your references. So we want to limit the amount of time that we spend to scan the resumes. All right, so when we are looking at a resume, we do not read entirely through everything. So we scan and we make a short list. And here at Outsourcing, we call your references first before we actually call you in for an interview. So that's why we recommend that you put your references on your resume.
Okay, I understand. One other question. There is a new trend of stating your GPA on your reference. Is that something that you recommend?
Yes, yes. Because in our process, we do ask for your transcript.
Okay.
So as Ms. Alla said before, the engineering is a bit of a different process because we want to see if, hey, you can apply yourself. So we want to see how well you did in this course or that course. So we do ask for a transcript. So listing the GPA would be a plus. Did I answer your question?
Yes, you did. Thank you.
All right. So we're moving on to preparing your cover letter. Let me, like 2 out of 10 times we receive resumes plus cover letter. I don't know what person stopped spending the time to do cover letters, and it is important. So the cover letter convinces us as recruiter why you're the best candidate for the position. So while the resume may list your qualifications and we see, hey, this person is capable, we want you to tell us why you're the best candidate for the position. It shows us that you understand the position that you're applying for and you're spending the time to let us know that. And it also tells us why you should be considered for the interview. So please go back to writing cover letters. All right. So these are the basic elements of a cover letter. You have the contact information, you have the current date, 3 paragraphs stating the position, where you found the job ad, what you have to offer to the company, and how we can contact you. Tips for writing a cover letter. Make it easy to read. As I've mentioned before with the resume, make it easy to read. Write unique cover letter for each company. I remember getting a cover letter with a different company address and our position that we have advertised. So proofread your cover letters and make it unique for each company. You don't want to tell a company that, hey, I am a people person for an engineering job. We are more looking for, hey, I'm meticulous, I'm detail oriented. So the cover letter that you will send for a customer service job, you won't send it for an engineering job. That's basically what I'm saying. Expand your resume, but do not repeat it. So your resume lists your qualifications. Your cover letter basically tells us as recruiter how you will apply those qualifications. And show your personality. By reading the cover letter, we as recruiter want to see, oh yes, this person is detail oriented, or yes, she's meticulous in the way you write, the way your cover letter is formatted, and how you express yourself within the cover letter. important, please submit resume and cover letter by the medium listed on the job advertisement. So if the job advertisement say drop off letter at head office, do so. If it says email resume or cover letter to a specific address, please abide. All right, so Ms. Ola stated that another presenter will be presenting on the interview aspect of the workshop. So let me just go to our application process at SEAC Outsourcing Company. So firstly, in our application process, you have to complete a job application form. Along with the job application form, you'll submit your resume and cover letter. After we have scanned your resume and your cover letter, we ask you to complete a psychometric test. So now the psychometric test basically gives us an idea of who you are. So within the psychometric test, you'll have to complete a personality test, a work ethic test. We test your skill on Excel, Workshop, Word, and PowerPoint. And depending on the position, other tests will be added. After we have reviewed the result from your psychometric test, we ask you to complete a practical test. Now, this is where most of the applicants decide, say, hey, I'm going to withdraw my application, because they cannot bother to complete the practical test. In the engineering industry, we want to know that what you have learned at school, you are able to apply it to the working world. So we ask you some questions that you are required to answer. So we ask you questions, what would you do? We ask question, give you a scenario, or we give you a question about water pressure, depending on the position that you're being interviewed for. Then we ask you to submit your qualifications. So this is where we ask for your transcript, your degree, and any other qualifications that you might have. We went ahead now, before the interview, we call your references to ask about character reference. And we normally ask for a character reference and an academic reference. So we want to call Utech to see how capable you are, and we want a little bit about you. How do you do? What's your personality like? How do you work with others? We also ask for a professional reference. This process is a tedious process, because that's what I thought when I was doing this process. However, sitting in the chair on the other side, I've come to, know the importance and the role this process plays. So normally, if you do not pass the practical test, you're not considered for the position. If you fail a couple of psychometric tests, you are not considered for the position. Then we'll conduct the interview based on what you said in the interview, or you express yourself. We move to the hiring process, and then we'll offer you the job. Now, I would recommend that you practice the questions. You can research on common interview questions and practice, because we do look if the candidate is confident, or the candidate responds to certain situations, or the candidate responds to certain questions. So these are the things that we look for in the interview. We do not look for your answers per se. We look at how your approach to the questions that are asked. What do you employ to the situations that we ask of you? And before I leave today, I'm leaving this quote with you. One important key to success is self-confidence. An important key to self-confidence is preparations. So once you are prepared, you'll ace the interview and you'll be given a job offer. Now it's time for you to ask questions if you have any. Michael, it seems as if you have a question, you're smiling. Or is it the color that's standing out?
I mean, I do have questions, but I was just looking through the questions that persons would have pre-typed.
Sure.
And I believe some of them you would have kind of covered already. About is having a cover letter differently from a resume essential? Right, and you would already broken down that you guys want to see or know what it's important for us to gain, or to go reach that interview process, right?
Right.
All right. The next question somebody would have asked was, how should someone about to graduate best position themselves to look for jobs with no prior experience in the industry?
All right, so here at CX Solutions, we tend to hire persons coming out of university. Having experience is a plus, but since I've been here, I've hired like 2 civil engineers that are still attending school. So we gave them a start date as soon as they leave. So as soon as they are awarded their degree, they can start working. So experience is important and it depends on the position, but we do hire persons without experiences.
That's good. And I know somebody's probably asking how they can get in contact to start applying and trying to reach out to you, so they can hire them, so you can hire them.
All right, so I'll leave the email address in the chat below. So anyone who wants to send their resume, they can go ahead and I'll reach out and let them know the process from there.
All right. Let me see. Khadija Cooper is asking, do interns go through the same process or is it a simpler process?
Same process.
Same process.
Because the goal is to hire you as soon as you leave the internship, if you're interested. So we want to ensure that, hey, we do not have to do the process all over again. So it's one process.
All right. And so what do you guys look for in an engineering graduate? What are some of the key things that would, stick out to you guys from engineering graduates?
So the main thing that we looked at is the responses to the practical tests. So, is the person able to apply him or herself? So from theory to practical, are you able to apply the information that you learned to the real world? We see if the person is confident, if the person is detail-oriented, if the person is meticulous, is the person willing to learn? So that's very important for us. Because if we hire you for a civil engineer, we want to see if you're adaptable. Maybe you can do some drafting. So our environment is a learning environment. So we do look for that in candidates.
All right, that's good. Do you have any other questions, Mrs. Grant, before I go on? So.
Well, I don't have questions, but I would like to run through a few of the points that Miss Nicole made while she was doing her presentation, just in case, some of us miss it. So when doing the resume, we're supposed to make it easy to read. We're supposed to summarize our experiences, summarize our education, highlight relevant experience. So yes, I used to work at the hospital, and I was a nurse. However, I don't highlight everything that I did as a nurse. I highlight the aspects of the job that would have been relating to engineering. So you have to be deliberate and specific. Don't make your resume a booklet. 2 pages is enough. 1 to 2 pages long. The resume must be true. No padding up the resume so you look like, some top shutter when I'm just starting. I'm just scraping. You cannot slide when your resume can look like you're sliding across the ballroom when you don't even know if you place the left foot before the right one yet. Be true. No pretending. Format the resume in relation to the field. So she mentioned keywords, which is something I have never thought of doing.
Yes.
To look at the job
That's
application
important.
and pick out the keywords and, you know, format it, but I've never thought of using words, you know, from the application. So use up your keywords, be observant, list your references. A lot of time persons really do not want to list their references because sometimes the people that you would want to ask to be referenced, they had not agreed to be a reference before you send out the application. So start talking to people from early out about being references, being willing to talk to a recruiter or a prospective employer before you start seeking employment. Include your GPA. Sometimes we don't really want to put the GPA in because we're not over the 3.0, you know, there's something there, but we need to put it there just in case, right? And sometimes your GPA may be a 2.7. That does not say you will not be interviewed. What if you have the requisite experience from a previous job? You can still be considered. And then when it comes to the cover letters, I can't imagine that persons are sending in resumes without cover letters.
You would not believe, like, majority of the resumes are just resumes alone, no cover letter.
So, what are you applying for? You know, I hope my students here will understand that they need to submit a cover letter with their resume. They go together, they are brothers, they here.
Right.
None of them stand alone.
Close brothers.
Okay. And then we make it easy to read as well. And make your cover letter unique to the job. Add the information in the resume, add the information to improve on what is said in the resume. Don't bother to repeat it. And submit your application as indicated on the ad. No, don't be sleek. If it never say if you drop it off with the security at the gate, do not drop it off with the security at the gate. If it says that you are to use the Dropbox, use the Dropbox. Just follow the procedure. And with that said, if there are no other questions from the chat or from there are more.
Yeah, man. Wait, Engineer Bennett has a question, but give me a second, Engineer Bennett. Is it possible for her to go back to the cover? Is it possible for you to make the presentation available to us so that person can see the format of how the cover letter and everything should be?
Sure, no problem.
All right. And Khadija would have asked if I filled out the application form previously, but did not send in my resume and cover letter, should I fill out the form again, or can I go ahead and send the resume and cover letter regardless of the gap between?
That, all right, so we do have access to application letter from probably 2017. So if it's within that time range, she does not have to complete the application form again. You can go ahead and send the resume and the cover letter.
All right, thank you. Mr. Bennett, are you still with us? Do you still have your question?
I'm still with you. I just want to say, in terms of the experience that the presenter made mention of, some students underestimate the power of extracurricular activities. And that's a great experience that you can add. So there are so many clubs and societies at Utech. There's no excuse why students should not be involved. So get involved on these, you can add to your resume, all right?
I definitely agree, because sometimes we look at leadership. So persons who are inexperienced, listing that you probably are the president of the engineering club, that would definitely be a plus. So do go ahead and include those.
All right, thank you very much. Remember to send us your email address, persons are asking for it. All right, are there any more questions?
There's one person asking, do the resume and cover letter in one or separate documents? They're supposed to be separate documents, right, Miss?
Separate documents.
All right, thank you very much. Just leaving the floor open a little bit longer. If there are any other questions anybody has about preparing for the interview and all of that. All right, let me throw out another one. Are CVs important to you guys? So I know the cover letter is one, the resume is important as well, but do you guys, often ask or request for CVs or a little bit more detail in the activities of the applicant?
Whatever information is not listed on the cover letter and the resume, we take the opportunity to ask it during the interview.
All right. Sorry. All right, and what do you suggest? So we know we're supposed to keep your resume between 1 to 2 pages and all of that. But what if I have, quote unquote, hypothetically speaking, if I have a lot of experience and I have a lot of stuff and activities or courses or achievements that I do you have any recommendation as to how I can keep it concise?
All right, so for those experiences that are not related to the job, you can go ahead and list less of those. And then highlight the experiences and the extracurricular activities that is related to the job.
All right, understood. All right, let me just check if we have any more questions. We're also streaming on YouTube at the School of Engineering's YouTube page. So persons can also share the link for the YouTube channel there and the Zoom link. But I do not see any more questions so far. All right.
Just another comment, if you may, since I realize that. Should I?
Yeah, you can go ahead, Sir Ben.
I apologize for not showing my handsome self. I know Miss Hall agree with that. I understand.
Of course.
One of the things, though, and I think Miss Hall would have shared this experience, is that sometimes our students list their major project that they would have participated in their final year, but the challenge is they sometimes do not specify their specific contribution. And I think that is something that it could be of value, unique value, not to just say that, I participated in this project, but to go and specify your contribution, because that's a part of your experience as well. What do you think about that aspect? Because you want to show something and voluntary service as well at church or in the community and so on.
All right, so during the interview, we would ask the question, or the candidate might highlight that they did a project in their final year. We normally request that project to see, and then we ask which section they would have contributed to. Just since we had an interview where a young man stated that he had done a project at school in final year, and we had asked to see that project. So we do take these things into consideration, especially if the candidate is coming straight out of university.
Another comment, what do you think though about students who sometimes have high school teachers that taught them in grade 6 or grade 4 that they have on their resume? How do you select persons appropriate? Because I get, sometimes resume and I see some person, I wonder, are these people aware of what the person is doing at this stage in their life? What are your thoughts?
In that case, we would have reached out to the candidates and asked for a more current reference. So academic would ask someone from the university, a lecturer per se, a tutor, department heads, and we probably would use the reference that is listed from grade 6 as a character reference. And we have a set of questions that we would go through and ask the references. So we do take into consideration how long, if the person is aware of the person's well-being, know what he's doing, what he or she is doing. So we do have a set of questions that we ask references. If we are not satisfied with the references, we do reach out to the candidate and ask for additional references.
All right, thank you very much, very much. All right, what a beautiful interview, beautiful presentation, and I know that many of our students would have appreciated the knowledge you'd have passed and the tips and guidelines that you would have given us. All right, and thank you to Mr. Bennett as well for adding his comments and all of that. You know, we truly appreciate you taking the time, spending the time to, you know, share the information with us this morning. All right, and I'm sure you'll get a few emails right after this session of persons asking and seeing and requesting how much they can or how they can, you know, come and or try to reach that interview process or interview stage with you. All right, so thank you very much again for joining us, and I hope you have a good day, a good rest of the day.
Thank you for having me. And please do go ahead and send all those resumes and cover letters, and I'll reach out to you.
Excuse me, what someone was asking what was the type, what type of student you want to have? What major?
What specialization?
What specialized?
All right, now we have vacancies for a civil engineer, but we do civil engineer, environmental engineer, we do coastal engineer, junior engineer. As long as you have your engineering degree, just send them over.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Mrs. Grant, I believe we can ask a few questions, you know, give away some prizes on your department.
Oh, Jesus. Well, let us see, you know.
All right, let me see if everybody was paying attention. All right, let me ask a general question first. Let me see, how can we do this? Is the first person to comment in the chat? All right, so the first person to comment in the chat and tell us, when did this employability workshop start? I don't think we'll finish the question yet. All right, Jeremy.
Okay, Jeremy.
I think we'll finish the question yet. Or maybe I'm making the questions too easy.
Probably. Give them an engineering question. Let us
an
see
engineering
how fast they
question?
answer it. Yes.
I don't know if I can give them a non-biased engineering question. Let me see now. Let me go back to the presentation to see if everybody was paying attention. All right. For engineering graduates, what's the recommended page amount for your resume? Somebody said one. And you're wrong, Jermaine.
One, two.
You're wrong, Jermaine. It's not.
You know, I have a strong feeling that Jermaine was on the school challenge quiz team for his high school, you know.
All right.
He was the guy who had his hand over the buzzer like this in the buzzer section.
Yeah, man. All right, but the accepted answer would be 1 to 2 pages, in my opinion. All right, Mrs. Grant?
And that would be Travis.
Yeah, man. So
Travis,
Jermaine, you would have gotten the first prize already. All right, and then Travis. Let me write down your name. You'd be getting the second prize. Or maybe my question sound too easy. Sound too easy. All right, hold on. Let me give you a little harder question. Because I don't want to give away your department's what?
No.
Drop. All right.
Why are all the chemical engineering students bawling out? No, 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 no.
I'm gonna say, shouldn't the chemical know it by
Can
heart?
I tell you? Travis said no.
As a matter of fact, that's a good question, because most chemical persons would have a disadvantage, would have an advantage, but I believe all of us would have done fluids at some point, or will do fluids. All right.
All right, Gerard.
All right. Something about our speaker. The first person to tell us what SEAC means and the presenter's full name.
What is going on in the chat? Nothing. Google them, man. I'm sure.
Yeah, man. Germany is so fast again. And the presenter's full name. Maybe this
Come on, people. The question is a two-part question. Stop answering half the question. We don't get half marks over here. But you said that you take half the price. No, Matthew, no half price over here.
I do remember the speaker, telling us what SEAC means and explaining everything. And we did introduce the speaker's full name.
What excellent. Come again, Deborah.
I'm seeing bits and pieces of the answers, but not the. Let me see if I said the full answer yet. I'll take half prize. There's no half a prize.
I think Deborah may have gotten it.
Is Miss Spike is still online with us?
Yes, Miss Spike is still here.
Coastal engineering and civil, environmental and coastal outsourcing company limited. Let me see through the chat who was the first person to actually state the name of the company. You're not supposed to give up, Jared. You're an engineering student, I think.
Of course he is.
So I'm not sure if Miss Spike is with us to confirm everything. Let me check in the chat. So no, Matthew didn't get it first. Catherine would have started but didn't give us the speaker's full name. Did Deborah Butler get it? Is Deborah a winner, Mrs. Grant? She seems to be all winner.
I think she's the first one
to actually
Hi, Mr. James.
Yes, I'm here, Miss Mike.
I'm sorry, I stepped out of office for a bit, but I saw the chat. Yes, so it's actually civil, environmental, and coastal engineer. So let me see who got it right.
So the exact phrasing is civil, environmental, and coastal engineer outsourcing company.
All right. So our parent company is actually the engineering firm, which is civil, environmental, and coastal solutions. So we are a civil, environmental, and coastal outsourcing company. So we basically do the HR staffing for SIAC solutions. So if they say, I did say solutions, but I think you can give them if they say outsourcing.
Outsourcing, all right. And that looks to be, I think, Deborah.
Yeah, Deborah, Miss Butler got it. Got both questions.
She gave us both answers.
Yeah.
With Miss Spike's full name and the company. All right, so Deborah Butler. All right, Mrs. Grant, do you have a hard question for them? That one seemed too easy because most of them Googled it.
No, except I'm going to go ask them. I'm probably going to have Miss Barrett ask them a question, and I'm sure they don't want one from Miss Barrett.
So I'm ready for Miss Barrett question because Miss Barrett is asking, let me see, she asked about Bernoulli's equation and she asked him some fluids question. Miss Barrett, they said our question's too easy. Heat transfer. And this is what we call badness in the chat. So the options are heat transfer questions or fluids questions. So the question is, what ratio is represented by Reynolds number? All right, so Gerard, you were saying, asking Miss Barr to do her worst. So let's see now. I'm surprised you don't answer the question yet. You were saying our questions are too easy.
Shamoon. Seems as if Shamoon and Travis are our only competitors. Jermaine, Jermaine said based on Google. Based on Google. You see, Jermaine is a practicing researcher, you know, he's even making sure that he highlighted where he got the information from. So this is not based on Jermaine, it's based on Google. Hmm?
So based on the response, Miss Barrett, who you think win the prize?
Travis came out the gate swinging. We can give it to Travis.
All right. Wait, but Travis won 2 prizes. Travis won the second question.
You know, see, Travis
We can
is
make it a
booming.
cumulative score, so at the end of the workshop, we give a grand prize.
All right, that's a good point. No problem.
No, we know it's Travis. It's Travis alone in here reading over notes, you know.
No, Gerard, you fighting out yourself. You asked a hard question and you never answer the question. All right, guys, I think we have more prizes. Well, it's not my department, so I can't say we have more prizes to give away and give away more than you guys have. But we have more questions. We have more questions to ask after the other presenters. All right? So save your energy with your fingers and everything to answer the rest of the questions after the presentations, right?
Yeah, pay attention. Because I'm sure we'll find a hard question from the next presenter.
Yeah, man. So because the next presenter is a founding person of this workshop overall. Right, so the presentation will be interesting, and she will be here to answer your questions and everything. Right, I think we can get into the next speaker, right, Mrs. Graham?
Yes, we can.
All right. Now, for the next few minutes, right, we'll be speaking or we'll be looking at your online presence. All right, and if most persons are on LinkedIn, you would know this particular speaker and everything, right? Our next speaker for this session is Miss Diane Plummer, right? Her philosophy is that she has one life. And as you may have come to realize, life is not linear. So with this life, she aims to live it to the fullest and to form an authentic connection with whatever she does and whoever she meets. Now, moreover, This allows her to charter her own course and embark on many adventures, which she calls her many lives. She has been a student, process control technician, process engineer, researcher, entrepreneur, and lecturer. And yes, the journey continues to have a full life experience. Now, she grew up in the Caribbean in the warmth of the sunshine and the abundance of nature. She was always appreciative of the environment. And moreover, her former roles as a process engineer in the oil and gas sector further sparked her interest to do energy differently, to preserve the environment for future generations. This desire led to her completion of a master's degree in mechanical engineering and sustainable energy at the Royal Institute of Technology, that is in Sweden, and Aalto University, Finland, and more recently, her decision to become a certified energy manager, CEM, from the Association of Energy Engineers, AEE. She has also written an energy column for the American Society of Mechanical Engineers, ASME, and have published 4 journal papers on energy. Her publication list includes research on women in STEM and on cosmetic production. As a former lecturer in the School of Engineering at the University of Technology, Jamaica, she had the opportunity to nurture young minds. And in this capacity, she focused on her passion, energy, as she lectured modules such as thermodynamics. She has also developed modules in biomass and biofuels for both the Utech Jamaica and a training module for the Wigton Wind Farm. As a STEM professional, she previously supervised projects which focused on renewable energy and sustainability. Her passion is to bring a sustainable approach to all areas of her life. She wants to incorporate innovation to not only safeguard the future, but to bring a holistic approach to the energy sector. She can now say that her childhood interest has evolved into a personal charge to do her part to ensure the sustainable future and to be a role model to young women wanting to pursue STEM careers. So as we go on to our next speaker this morning, our next speaker will be Engineer Diane A. Plummer.
I'll be presenting on your online presence. So here's what I want you to do. Take out your phone, go on Google and search for your name. I'm going to give you a couple seconds to do that. What did you find? Well, we're going to get back to that in a minute. So for today's session, we are going to be talking about your online presence. We're going to look at what is your online presence, how to clean up your act once you've figured out what's out there, rebranding yourself, expanding your network, and then I'll be giving you some steps to follow. So firstly, where do you stand? Thoughts about that? When it comes on to your online presence, are you just freely giving out your data, posting whatever comes to your mind? Now, your online presence refers to all the activity and content that a person or a business has under their name on the internet. The internet is a very vast space. And of course, you don't want to just be putting out any and anything that is out there, right? So your online presence would include virtually your accounts, any assets, interactions, any piece of information that is created by or about a person or a business. And this was a definition that I found online. Now, how are you using your online presence to your advantage? What's the leverage? No, your online presence is a part of your branding, right? And that would include your social profiles. So your Instagram, your TikTok, your LinkedIn, your Pinterest, all of those. Now, social media, of course, can have great personal benefits. You can network, you can find jobs, you can meet new people. It's all good stuff, right? No, it is also a way for you to market yourself and to attract career opportunities and to position yourself as a particular expert in your field as well. Now, your online presence should be looked at as a part of your own online branding, right? It's a part of your personal branding. And of course, because of that, it can create valuable benefits for your career growth. So when we're looking at your online presence, you want to try and examine what you want persons to perceive you as, right? What's your core value? So your online presence should be looked at as a way to get people to see your core value and to understand what you really bring to the table. Now, you may be wondering what's your core values, and I've placed a few of them to the right, and it can be your commitment, your passion, your dependability, your honesty, loyalty, optimism. Are you a reliable person? Are you generally efficient? These are some core values. Now, your online presence is an opportunity to allow others to get to know a side of you and to build trust and connection in the virtual space. And because of that, they may eventually want to work with you. Now, we're going to talk about social media, right? And in this part of the session, I want to talk about cleaning up your act, really. Now, the first way to begin to clean up your act is to actually figure out what's out there. So remember when I asked you to Google yourself? What did you really find? Now, be honest. What does this baseline data say about you? What is the information telling you? Now, remember that having a professional online presence is important because it can bring up network opportunities that can help you to land a career job opportunity as well as it can help you to demonstrate credibility and to just maintain that that presence in the social sphere. So there are 3 steps that you can adjust your online presence. And of course, it's easy as 1, 2, 3. So the first one is audit, figuring out what's out there. The second one is trim, kind of cut back on the existing information if it does not reflect who you are as a person. And the third one is to take back control and to put out information that reflects who you really are. Now, as engineering students, there are lots of companies that are out there. And I recently saw a job application form, and it actually has a place for social media handles. Can you imagine that? So let's look at the very first step, which is audit. So there are several social media platforms. I have a few of them on the screen. You have your Facebook, your Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube, etc. Now, the first part is your audit. Is anybody out there? So the first thing you have to do is to find out what is really out there. Be honest and make sure when you're searching for that content, you look on it in a private browser, or you can use, an incognito search as well. Because once it is in this mode, you'll be finding all the generic information that if a random person is supposed to Google you, they'll find that. Also, you can set up a Google alert with your name so that you can get notified if any information is published about you online. And if you want to figure out how to do that, just quickly go do a Google search, or you can go on YouTube and you'll find that as well. So now that we've figured out what's out there, the second step is to trim, cut back on that content, especially if it does not reflect who you really are. So yes, remember that random Twitter rant that you did? Remember it? Okay, so we are emotional beings, right? We have emotions. And sometimes, you may want to vent, and persons may go on social media and they'll vent about, with a personal issue, something at work, something at school, your lecturer, right? So the best thing is to just go back through those old posts that no longer reflect who you are. It doesn't reflect your growth, and just delete them, right? You want to remove any content that may damage your reputation. Also, if you have some accounts on some shady websites, the best thing for you to do is to just remove yourself from those accounts. Now, if you're going to be deleting or deactivating these accounts, the first thing you need to do is to just delete all the posts, delete all the photos as well, because you don't want to go ahead and delete it. And if there are certain privacy settings that were there, or privacy things that you would have agreed to, these people may own your content and can post it. So remember, data is gold, and you may be oversharing. So sometimes you need to review the account permissions, right? When you're downloading these apps, what are you really agreeing to? Take a look at those privacy account permissions and see what you're really agreeing to. Now, another thing is to just make use of privacy settings. So all social media profiles have privacy settings that you can use to restrict posts. You can restrict who can view certain content. You can create special groups of persons who you want to view certain content as well. Now, who are you following? What posts are you liking? Remember, some of these content may not necessarily reflect good on you, and you don't want to put out this kind of negative information about yourself, because if you see, you know, a video of somebody getting a beheading and you go ahead and you like it and so on, it reflects badly on you. So do an audit of who you follow, the posts you like, and remember, reviewing is iterative. So you might do a social media audit this month, maybe like in another 6 months, you can do another social media audit and delete some old posts, things that no longer reflect who you really are. Now that you have done an audit, you have trimmed your content, the next step is to control. Let's take control of what we put out on social media. Now you can create your own personal brand, right? You can curate it. So it's always better to have a social media presence than none at all. I don't have a personal Instagram page, but I do have a LinkedIn, and I'm active on it from time to time. Now, you don't have to be present on all platforms, but whichever platform you're on, make sure that you're leveraging it so that you can be in a better position for your engineering career. So this way you can highlight your strengths, highlight your accomplishments. If you're on the Dean list, post it, right? Create this wonderful content that shows that you're a high achiever, right? If you were participating in some volunteering activities, you can share that content as well, because it shows that you're socially conscious and you're a helpful person. Now you want to show your authenticity and connect with your audience. So platforms such as LinkedIn would be good to do that, because you are in control, and you can also develop a personal website. So now, as a part of control, it involves pausing and reflecting. And in order to create a bio, you need to do some kind of self-reflection, right? And you want to make sure that if you have multiple social media accounts, especially if you're going to be using it for a professional aspect, you know, because you're in third year, final year, and you want to start positioning yourself to get jobs or business opportunities, then you want to have a bio that reflects who you are as a person and your work ethic, etc. Also, based on your social media, based on your LinkedIn, whatever it is, are you building authenticity? Are you showing who you really are as a person? Are you showing that, yes, you have a passion for civil engineering, you know, you keep talking about it, but then when I go on your social media, I don't see it, do I? Right? Or is your social media a reflection of your alter ego? If you notice, I have two faces on the screen, right? Is it that you are one person in this context and you're another person in this context? Is that the case? If you keep telling person that, yes, I'm all about sustainability, am I seeing that in what you do? Am I seeing that in your profiles? Let's think about that. Now, I want us to explore LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a professional networking site, and it was developed to help persons, of course, network, share their professional experiences, and find jobs. So if you follow a lot of these companies, you see that you would be notified when they have made a post. You can also set up alerts in LinkedIn for certain types of jobs in certain locations as well. So LinkedIn is a way to demonstrate who you are and aspire to be, and also a way to show your professional development throughout the years. Actually, now is the best time for you to actually create a profile. You know why? Because you are in university, and most of the persons here can be your future co-workers, can be your future boss, or future business partner. So now is the time to network. Develop your LinkedIn profile, start following each other, start following different companies, start following different content that you're interested in as well. Now, let us look at how to curate your LinkedIn profile. And what I love about LinkedIn is that you have the opportunity to be authentic. And sometimes when you see these LinkedIn posts, it can seem so inauthentic, right? So you might say something like, you know, ever since I was in the womb and I was surrounded by amniotic fluid, my interest in fluid statics and dynamics was sparked. And I knew that I was destined to be a fluid systems engineer. Come on, we've all seen those posts and we know that it is total BS. We know it. So when you're doing your LinkedIn profile, you're doing your bio, you're doing your post, be authentic. So on the screen, I have different sections of LinkedIn. And, you know, I want you to think of LinkedIn almost like a resume because it does have all the elements. So you can input your education, right? You can input the different schools that you went to because that would be another area for you to network. So if you're a KC old boy, you might see, you might start following the Old Boys Association, you network with other people, things like that, right? You can also show the different languages that you speak, right? Volunteer opportunities, even organizations that you may want to volunteer with, right? You can state that. You can also put your different clubs and societies because it shows that you're active in university as well. And of course, your honors and awards, right? So there's a section on the profile that you can put your honors and awards. So if you were on the dean list, if you got one of those chemical engineering awards, you can put those on your profile. Build up your LinkedIn profile because of course, guess what? Recruiters are going to check it out. Now, let's talk about the about section in your profile. So your about section is very important. And what I love about it is that in your about section, you can use it to form bits and pieces of a cover letter. It is also a personal bio. And guess what? If you don't have a personal bio, now is the time to start thinking about it, doing some self-reflection and start writing. Now, when I was doing my about section, I used 6 elements in there and I want to share that with you because I want you to build a stellar LinkedIn profile. So I wanted to use LinkedIn as an opportunity to let persons see who I am and to establish that virtual connection. So in LinkedIn, I have my core values, right? You'll hear me talk about, you know, life is not linear. You'll hear me talk about building human connection, things like that. You'll see me talking about my key interests, sustainability, sustainable energy. I'll talk about what drives me. And of course, I'll give a summary of my professional and academic journey. Then there's a call to action. The call to action is, you know, if you're interested in working with me or think we should work together, then send me an email. And I place my email address there because I want persons to be contacting me if a job opportunity comes up. So let's get ready to build our about section in our profile. All right, so that's the next thing you are going to do. Now, here are some other LinkedIn tips. So on LinkedIn, you can create a banner. You can put what you're interested in on it, right? So if you're a civil engineer and you love building design, you might want to put a picture of a bridge, or you might want to list out the different types of designs that you're interested. Also on LinkedIn, you can publish articles about topics that you're good at. You can write some articles, right? So if you're interested in, let's say, cosmetic production, you can write about that, right? If you're interested in, you know, how fluids behave at high temperature and you've written some assignments on it, you can publish it too, turn it into an article. If you've done projects, and of course with the consent of your group members, you can convert those to an article and publish them. And of course, make sure you're giving credit to your group members, right? Also, follow companies and topics that you're interested in, right? So you can be up to date with content, up to date with what's happening in engineering, what's happening in civil engineering, what's happening in electrical engineering currently. Okay, and of course, guess what? If you're on LinkedIn, connect with persons, send them a follow. It's not like it's on Instagram where, you know, if you see somebody that you don't know trying to follow, you're like, who is this? And decline, you don't follow them or you don't want them to follow you, right? On LinkedIn, you can follow persons, you can accept the requests as well, and you can use it as an opportunity to connect with persons. Another tip is don't keep your profile private. Recruiters are going to look on your profile and they want to see all that lovely information that you're going to be creating. Now let's talk about personal websites. Yes, I have a personal website. So a personal website is another way for you to create that content about yourself. It's like an instant portfolio. And so whereas on LinkedIn, they have these specific things that you have to put in your profile, on your personal website, it's all up to you. And it gives persons that instant, representation of who you are when they visit your site. So what you can do when you're creating it, you can use your first and your last name in your URL. And guess what? You can create your website yourself. I did it, right? I use WordPress and I made my personal website for myself. So I have my publications there, I have my job experience there, I have particular things I'm interested, I put my core values, all of these things. Now there are lots of platforms that you can use. You can build a Google site or something as simple as that. Most of us have a Gmail. So of course you can go ahead, you can build a Google site. I use WordPress for my website. There's BoldGrid, there's Wix, there's so many other platforms that you can use to create your own personal website and to create your own content. And guess what? This is a good way so that when person Google you, put in your name, oh, your website may pop up on the first page. And that's a good place to be. Now, what are the next steps? So what I would love for you to do is to do a social media audit. What is out there about you, right? Trim that content and then curate the content that you think would be beneficial for your engineering career. Write a personal bio. And to do that, you have to do some self-reflection. Think about, your core values, what drives you, what makes up your persona, right? And then you can use up all this information to create a LinkedIn profile and then build your network. Let's go, guys. You definitely got this. Now, our presentation is over and I'm open for any questions and comments. And guess what? Remember to add me on LinkedIn as well. So thank you so much for listening, and I'll be joining you now for about a couple minutes to answer your questions.
Okay, guys. Michael, I think you're still muted, I believe you're, yes. All right. So while this plumber tries to get connected, you can go ahead and do a little social media sweep. Let us search for ourselves. Or let me, all right, you know what? I probably could search for me so that you see how that sounds.
All right, you can hear me clearly now.
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. I did actually search for myself. I'm glad that my LinkedIn came up and not my Twitter.
I am going to search. All right, I'm not sure.
You're going to search for yourself. All right.
I was recently named Grant, so nobody don't know that. All right.
Congratulations, by the way. I don't think I extended my congratulations.
All right. You see what first come up? Utech. Can you imagine if I never work anywhere? And then after that, my LinkedIn. So what should we look at first? Let me go. You go. All of these are work stuff. These here are stuff from work. This is my Pinterest profile pic. This is my LinkedIn profile pic. This one is in my banner. This was Utech telling me congratulations for finishing my master's. So now let me go to LinkedIn. Let me show you me is somebody. Look at me. All right. So you see what my LinkedIn looked like, guys? So on my LinkedIn, this is my banner and it tells what I'm about. So this is the section right here, tells you that I'm an administrative assistant, and then over here tell you the other things that I do on this side, you know? So on this side, I like to do let's call it educational measurement. So it's measurement on a whole. I like to look at where persons are.
Hold on, Mrs. Grant. Persons are saying they can hardly hear you. I'm hearing clearly, so I'm not sure, but multiple persons are saying they can hardly hear you.
All right, hold on. Let me fix that. That can be fixed. I think I need to go back to my handy dandy. Because
Perfect.
How are we?
Perfect. So you can continue telling us and bragging about your LinkedIn now.
You're hearing me now clearly, man?
Perfect.
Great. Great. I hope everybody else is hearing me too. All right. So you see, I represent myself. So I did a master's degree some time ago in educational measurement, where we look at student testing, basically testing and evaluation of students within various educational institutions. So that is over here. And you scroll down, you see my about, it tells you who I am, what I'm interested in, and then the rest goes on. And you see, I went ahead and I shared the employability workshop. Really, Google? Why you embarrassing me? Skip you. And let me know my business. Yes. Why you want to embarrass me? All right.
And I'm gonna steal your banner idea, Mrs. Grant. We like your banner.
Great. I have no issue with that. All right. So you see now, I'm not looking for a job right now. They keep asking me that, even though I have to tell them every day. So I follow people like Sagicor. So when Sagicor posts, it comes up there. And I don't know why. Did LinkedIn change something that I don't know about?
Are you trying to reach back to your profile?
No, I wanted to see my post. Yes, you realize something is going on here that I don't know anything about.
Makes it look like I have two profiles.
Can't have two profiles, my love. That would be very strange. Who make one of my profile? You, Travis? Right, let me go back to here and see what is going on over here, because I don't know why I would have two profiles. I've only ever had one for years.
There we are. I see your post now.
But then I need to. All right, you're here, Miss Fancy.
Everyone.
All right, let me stop sharing now. I was just showing off my LinkedIn profile, until you got on.
Morning, students.
Good morning, Ms. Lomo.
Hi. Waiting on the question.
All right, hold on. Does anybody have any question before we get it? Because I have a lot of questions, right? Because my Twitter is very different from my LinkedIn, and the stuff I post on Instagram is very different from what I have on my LinkedIn. All right, you can go ahead, Rick.
Can you repeat? I have my headphones are on.
Okay, good morning. My question is, as it relates to LinkedIn, I keep getting messages from persons asking for my telephone number because they want to schedule a call. And I sort of find that really annoying because I'm saying, okay, LinkedIn is where we're all supposed to be professional. There are supposed to be no scammers here. So how do we go around that?
You just have to, what you would do if you get a message like that, check out their profile. If they mention a particular company, check out the company. And if it looks suspicious, just don't respond, and you can probably block them so that you don't get those.
People are encouraging people to reach out to people and they're using LinkedIn. I'm like, LinkedIn is not just to reach out like that, but they're using everything. So they're finding you on TikTok, they're finding you on Instagram, they're finding you on Pinterest. I just use my Pinterest to search for ideas and people are hunting me down on Pinterest. So it's just where marketing is. What you have to do now is to just observe if whatever product or conversation they're coming across with is not in line with where you're going, just tell them you're not interested and move on. If you respond, because I've not responded to many of them.
Boy, my bet where I like.
No man, when I get bored, I kind of respond to some of them. When I'm
You need
bored.
more and more activities in your life, like if you go and resort to that.
All right. You spoke a lot about scrubbing and stuff of our social media. But you know, can I hear you comments of persons, well, more so in America, so losing jobs and being canceled for this and that for things they said maybe 10, 20 years ago, right? Why is it that my life 10 years ago on my private social media so important to what I'm going to apply now, for now?
Okay, good question, Michael. So, as I said before, scrubbing in social media is important because if you are applying for, let's say, some humanitarian job, right? And they go back on your social media and they see that, I don't know if you remember those Afghanistan beheadings and stuff that you were liking and commenting, oh, them boy for dead or something like that, right? Then chances are you would not be considered for that, even if your current, it doesn't reflect who you are currently. So it's important to change that. But then again, if you are seeing that, okay, you have changed, this is no longer who you are, then why would you have a problem removing it from the social space? You understand? So who you are changes. Who I am now is completely different from who I was last year before. So of course, you need to just reflect that change in not only what you are saying, but what you do and what already exists in your social footprint online.
Thank you very much. But my last question for now, because I want to give everybody else an opportunity to ask questions, right? Are there keys? We know LinkedIn is one for sure, but outside of LinkedIn, are there other key social media sites or stuff that employers or persons will look at? Do I need to delete my entire Twitter from now?
Listen, if you have some shady stuff on Twitter, maybe you need to clean it up. But yeah, they ask for your Twitter handles, your Instagram, your LinkedIn, or they may just have a broad thing, social media handles, right? So I think Twitter is a good one to have. I used to have a Twitter, I no longer have it, but Twitter has other companies use Twitter for sending out blasts of information. So it's a good one to have to catch up on what's happening out there. And if you're going to be sharing information like that, it's good to have. I know being on Twitter is fun to see all the Twitter stories and drama and all of that. But at the same time, you can always read through it. You don't need to like it, hint. So I said Twitter is a good one. LinkedIn, yes.
All right, thank you very much. So I might just delete my Twitter after this session.
Just go through and delete some of the stuff, right? Yes, he does look guilty.
All right. Does anybody have any questions before we move on?
Let me just comment on Engineer Plummer advice. I think is excellent in terms of it's not where you were. Your social media profile can show a transformation of where your focus is now. And I think that is good. And I think not only like, but as she also said, what about writing a paragraph or 2 paragraphs on an article to further show that is this, these are the things that I'm interested in. These are the things I'm interested in. So it's about transformation and it's about, being the best you.
Well supported, Julia.
And you can also comment on articles if there is something, say for instance, you're doing fluids and you see this article, but you look at the situation from a different perspective in class. A 1 paragraph and 2 little reference citation down there, but I'm sure say you're going places. And people
that
look
opens
at
you
that.
up, right?
Right. People
Opens
look
you
at
up to
that.
new connections.
And sometimes it's not even the person that even looking to employ anybody right now, but they have a project and they say, no, I could bring this person on this project and let me see if I could improve on this young engineer's career. They start you off, and if they start you off, you'll be surprised what one article, one conversation, and I would say just catching you onto a project do for your future.
Support it. So yes, commenting, as Margaret just said, is very important because it will open you up to new connections. It will put you out there as well. Don't just go and read through the thing and then just comment back something that was already there. Add some new information to it because people know when you're trying to piggyback off some other comment because there's no real substance in your response.
All right, thank you very much. We can get into, since I don't see any questions in the chat so far. I think we can go to the
questions. There is one from Tyrell. Okay. Chanel Tyrell. She said, when you Google yourself and you only, I guess she's asking if only your LinkedIn comes up, could they still find your other social media data?
Boy, Chanel sound like helping to hide. Anyways. It depends, chances are they're not just going to be using a simple Google search if somebody wants to find out information on you. There are lots of different agencies that people can use to find out information. So if it's out there, if you're on some shady website, it can always come up. From it in the social space, yep, it's possible. So don't just use that, my Google myself, I don't need this alone to find, but
especially if you use your name.
You can't really.
Yeah, if you use your name to log on to these websites.
Right, which, yes.
Because guess what? You remember back in the day we had High Five? These young birds don't know anything about High Five.
Listen, I used to have a
For some reason, I went back and decided to try to see if my High Five profile is still up. And of course, Hop and Raven.
It was?
Yes.
I had deleted mine way back in the day.
I had to delete I took down the photos because they were good memories and deleted it because I'm not using it anymore.
Yeah.
Said something about MySpace. Chedi, Chedi, you're old man. MySpace.
I don't have a MySpace. I never even had one.
I didn't have one. MySpace was like for the older folks back in my time. Yeah.
In my time. So were there some other questions that person sent in?
In terms of LinkedIn posts, currently my LinkedIn page is blank because I really don't know what to post. What are some ideas of some things that you can post on LinkedIn? Personally, I feel more comfortable posting on Instagram because I understand the platform better. A little research, Rick. And Miss Plummer spoke about some of it before.
Yes, I did.
Your banner and your little about paragraph. Start with a profile, but I'll allow Miss Plummer to tell you what to do with your LinkedIn.
Okay, so first of all, if you go back through the presentation, and I will also be posting it on my LinkedIn, so you can go back through it and see the tips. But what you can also do is, after you've created it, figure out what you like. So which program are you in? Start following different pages on that. And you just post things that you're really interested in. Don't just post just because of posting. Post things that are relevant to what you're doing, right? Don't post just because you feel you need to post, right? You have your Instagram that you can just post random things on. So just be more intentional. So if you're doing a project about bridges or something, and you found something interesting, you can share that article and say, oh, I found this today or something like that. Or, if you did your project on the bridges and you talk to your group members and say, hey guys, we can turn this into a 3-page article and post it on LinkedIn, you can do something like that. So these are some ideas for you. And plus, as I said, I'll be posting the presentation on my LinkedIn. You can go download it so you can have the tips going forward.
All right.
What about blogs, Miss Plummer? Because a lot of persons nowadays, they have their blogs going. What is your advice on persons who do a blog?
Blog is cool. The blog is good to have. I had started one on I was supposed to start one on my personal website. So the page is there for me to start it. So I'm gonna actually write content about what I presented today and put it there. Plus I'm learning some new topics that I'm gonna put there. So the blog is good. One thing with blogs though, make sure you're consistent with your posting so that persons can have something to look forward to. So let's say you post every last Friday of the month, you can make sure that it is current so that people can, so Miss Hall going to post something on next Friday. I need to go check it out. Oh, yeah, so last week she did post something. Let me go back and check it out. So with blogs, you need to be more consistent and not do it haphazard. So whereas like on a LinkedIn, it can be haphazard in terms of what you post because you're just posting based on interest or if you have accomplishments or anything like that to share. With a blog, I find that it's good to kind of just be more consistent in the timelines of your posting so your audience get used to it.
Right. So Rick is asking again. So in terms of rep activities, those can be posted on LinkedIn as well. Of course. All them community activities that you're doing. Yes.
But just how you word it,
Yeah, make it professional. Remember, LinkedIn is
and
like
don't
the
make
more
it sound
professional
fake.
space.
You guys know the fake LinkedIn speak already. I mentioned it in the presentation. Don't come with that. Just be authentic, be genuine. Don't from ever since this and no. I'm sure you guys roll your eyes when you see those things because I do it.
So say for your LinkedIn activity, like the other day when the rep group attended church, you can post your photo of you attending church and then you give a little synopsis of church and the spiritual committee of the group, because there's a spiritual committee in the engine rep, right? I think, yes. So you talk about spiritual activities and how it relates to the right. So the overall goals of the committee. And you give a nice paragraph. So there's the photo. We went to church today. We have a spiritual committee, and you give us a brief synopsis of the spiritual committee and how it ties in with the group. Precisely. And it shows your volunteerism, and it's all for camaraderie.
Ready?
Any other questions?
I mean, we do have a few questions persons would have posted when signing up. I think you would have answered this one already, but I guess you can delve into it a little deeper. I don't think you need. Well, the question says, as a not so recent graduate with less than 2 years industrial experience, what can I do to make my profile more attractive to local employers?
Okay. All right. So I'm sure even though it's 2 years or less than 2 years, you would have learned some key things during that time. So I think what you can do, you can focus on some of the key things. Let's say maybe like a top 5, because I always like to say top 5 points. So she's in what, industrial engineering?
Well, the question didn't say industrial engineering.
Okay.
Industrial experience. It didn't give any, yeah.
Okay. So what you can do, like the top things that you would have done during that time, that's valuable. And you can highlight those on your page. You don't highlight all of them one time because you want to build up more content that you're going to be producing, right? So just show any key accomplishments you've done during that time, any key learnings, because during that time you would have been learning a lot. So is it something that you can write a little article about and just do a little more research and write something? Because you want to know, position yourself as a little expert in certain areas then, right? Because you just start. So figure out what you really like so far about the daily tasks that you have and focus on those and any key accomplishments that you have done, as long as it is in line with your company's policy for putting out certain information. Of course, you have to always look at that too. But look at what's happening in the industry that you're in. You can post articles about that, anything, key points from them that would have interest you as well. There's a lot of things that you can do to improve on your LinkedIn page or to improve and be more, what you had asked for again, to improve our
Make
profile.
it more attractive to local
Make it more
employers.
attractive. Right. So if you wanted to make it more attractive, you have to talk about your key experiences. You said 2 years, but you would have figured out at least some of your strengths that you can highlight so that new employees can see some kind of growth in you and start following those companies to set up alerts for those companies so you can see when they're posting jobs. What you can also do is, for the position that you're in, look at the job description for that same role in other key companies and start improving on those skills as well. That's another advice for you.
All right, thank you very much. The next two questions really kind of outside of your digital footprint. Someone would have asked, what is the status of the job market for chemical engineers in Jamaica?
Well, I think there are going to be breakout sessions with chemical engineers today, if I'm not mistaken. But I think that we have industries here that can accommodate them. There's Jamalco, there's Petrojam, there are other environmental companies, there's a NEPA. So it is there. And of course, there's the global space. I have a lot of my former colleagues who are working in Europe, in Canada, in the US, in other Caribbean islands. So you don't have to limit yourself here either. If you don't feel like this is a place for you, you don't have to limit yourself. But there are opportunities here. So you can't just go based on what people say, well, I'm a job in Jamaica. If a job is here for you, you will get that job. What's for you will always be for you. Just make sure you're prepared when the opportunities arise.
All right, thank you very much. The last question really and truly is, Martilla, to your personal work. As an entrepreneur, really and truly, they're asking, how do you go from our advice going from chemical engineering to the manufacturing business? And then right there, I ask for entrepreneurship, so could you break that down, your process from moving from, chemical engineering, mechanical engineering, and so to entrepreneurship?
Okay, so of course, for those who don't know, I do cosmetics. The brand is called Your True Shade. You can follow us on all platforms. So my journey, it started from a personal need. I was studying in Sweden, Finland. I wanted stuff for my skin. Couldn't find it, decided to make it. So that's where it started. So when I came back to Jamaica, I started manufacturing. Initially started out of home, then they had my own lab. But with the onset of the pandemic, I decided to shift. So currently I'm no longer manufacturing it. I've shipped. Most of my products are sold in the US. So there wasn't a need for me to really even manufacture, because if I bring it in, more duties, etc., etc. So I'm saying that, you start with a passion that you have. You start with see what kind of problem exists outside that you want to solve. Do people also have that same issue? And you can start from there. Then now you have to see how you can develop a sustainable business model, sustainable meaning financially, and of course, environmental as well. So financially, is it something that you need to be producing? Can other people produce it for you? Are you going to be selling it to Jamaicans? Are you selling it overseas? US dollar strong, you know? So I don't really, granted, yes, I still have clients here, but I have to go where it is financially sustainable for me. So you have to look, there are a lot of questions that you can ask yourself about that. And of course, I'm a firm believer in the YouTube University. So there are lots of videos out there on how to start up a business. You can, as I say, always start with your passion. Look if there's a need, if other people have a need, and how you're going to get it from out of your head to into the hands of the customers. So that would form your business model.
All right, thank you very much. The floor is open for any more questions before we close this portion. Are there any more questions? Going once, going twice. Well, I know Ms. Plummer's presentation was very clear. I know we asked a lot of questions in the initial stage right after her presentation, but the floor is still open for any comments, any questions.
I hope you guys enjoyed it.
And I'm sure they'll enjoy your LinkedIn as well. They'll follow you, go on your LinkedIn and follow you and connect with you on LinkedIn as well.
One more question.
Let me see who is in.
All right, somebody said I had a question.
Yeah.
I see a lot of my students online. Hi, students. You guys are doing okay.
Yeah, Ms. Plummer. Would you recommend us students, studying in Sweden or Finland?
If I'd recommend that?
Yeah.
You can look if there are scholarships available. I know maybe they would have changed some of the, I know some, I got a scholarship through the Erasmus Mundus. So I know that a lot of the universities in Sweden, they used to offer free tuition, same for Finland, but I think some of that has changed. So you just need to figure out what exactly you want to study. I studied at KTH, which is the Royal Institute of Technology, which is one of the top universities. It is a top technical university in Sweden. And I did at Aalto University in Finland, which is also the top technical university in Finland. So just go on their page, look, see what is being offered for international students. Studying over there it's a wonderful experience. But as I said, I studied over there like a couple of years ago. When did I go? 2011. So obviously things would have changed between then and now. So just go on the pages. You can also look for Erasmus Mundus. They offer a lot of scholarships for top universities in Europe as well. So just go and check them out to see what is out there, see if any other programs interest you, and then just take it from there.
All right, cheers. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome. Watch me, Sasha, probably. Who said that?
All right. All right, if there are no more questions, all right, thank you very much, Ms. Plummer. We'll take your advice. Me personally, I'll delete all my social media stuff. Not saying it's bad. I was joking around. It's not bad. I was just joking around. Yeah, but the things that I post on my Twitter is different from the things that I have on my LinkedIn and from my Instagram. And for those who kind of still use Facebook, because
I'm gonna check out your Twitter, Michael. I'm gonna try to check it out for
All right, but thank you very much. Thank you very much. Wonderful presentation. It was clear, concise, and everything. And we look forward to even reviewing it and on your LinkedIn, and of course, and seeing more of your posts and everything, and more great work and information from you. All right, thank you very much, Ms. Plummer, again.
Thank you, Rick. Thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful day. Bye, everybody.
All right, Mrs. Grant, are you with me?
Yes, Mr. James, I'm right here.
Right here.
I think we're on top of our break now.
Our break? Well, yeah, we can ask our question. I think Well, it's time for our next speaker. I think we can ask maybe a one question.
Or should we just wait, have the next speaker come, and then we ask all the questions at the end?
All the questions? No problem.
Give them a chance to forget.
That sounds like a plan.
All right. Okay. So our next speaker is Michelle Henry. Miss Michelle Henry will be coming to us now. Let me introduce Miss Henry for us. So, Miss Michelle Henry obtained a chemical engineering degree, a chemical and process engineering degree from the University of the West Indies, Trinidad campus, St. Augustine campus, where she graduated with first class honors. She currently works in the bauxite and alumina industry at Jamalco as a chemical engineer in the Research, Development and Technology Department. This department focuses on strategic medium to long-term improvement and optimization of projects for the refinery. Previous engineering experience includes being a process engineer and process statistician at Gisco Alpart, Jamaica, as well as being a process engineer in the engineering firm Worley Parsons, Jamaica. Michelle is also a trained teacher and taught various high school science subjects included biology, which she taught up to the CXC and CAPE level and still tutors. She loves young people and enjoys seeing and helping them succeed in life. Additionally, she is big on health and fitness. Miss Michelle, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Grant. Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me on your employability workshop, your 2022 virtual employability workshop. I appreciate the invitation and I feel very humbled to be asked to share again. It's either did something very right or something very wrong last night for you guys to ask me to share again, but I am honored. And once again, congratulations to Utech and the engineering department, to Ms. Plummer and Brandice and everyone who is involved in putting this on, that they're actually going out of your way to prepare your graduates for the working world. It's not just, okay, let's train them and ship them out and let them fend for themselves. It's actually having a session like this that is preparing you for getting a job, what to do on the job, you know, and actually to increase your employability skill set as well as your performance. So congratulations to the Utech engineering department and the entire team for doing this. So my presentation today is focusing on the job interview. And so I'm going to be sharing a presentation with you, and I'm going to be doing that. I'm going to be sharing my screen right now so you can see that. If you have any questions, you can write them in the chat and then we ask afterwards. I think that's probably the best way, although if there's any really pertinent ones, then you may be able to ask it throughout, but it may distract me, right, and others. So it might be best to just write them in the chat or write them down, and then we can, and then I can answer all questions afterwards. So I'll make sure I leave some dedicated time to answer your questions. All right. So I'm looking for my presentation that I'm going to be sharing now, and the screen doesn't want to come up. All right, let's try this again. Share screen. Okay, there we go. All right, so I'm assuming everybody can see my screen, right? Can type in the chat. Okay. Yes. All right, awesome. So from the interviews perspective, and as you've told, so I currently work at Jamalco, but I also have different experiences from doing different interviews. And so this is an amalgamation of the various interviews and information that I would have gathered over the years, right? So the first thing, from when you're preparing for an interview, you don't wait till you're at the interview. So before the interview, what do you need to know and why do you need to know it? And preparation here is key. Prepare. What are some of the things that you would need to know in terms of recommended knowledge? What is the main business of the company that you're employing with? right? So if it is Jamalco, you know that they are going to be working to be the best alumina producer. If it is Digicel, if it is Flow, then you know they're trying to be the best network, right? JPS, what is their mission statement? What is it that they are working to achieve? So for Jamalco, it's to deliver quality alumina in a safe, sustainable, and socially responsible manner to benefit all our stakeholders. And this is not just information for information's sake. I'm going to be showing you exactly what you want to do with this information, but you can't use it if you don't have it. So you first want to gather as much information as you can about the organization that you are applying to for employment with, right? Your vision statement. The mission statement is what they want to do. The vision statement refers to how they're going to do it, right? And so there are many places that you can look for this information. The internet is powerful. There's Google. There are lots. There's a company's websites themselves. There are lots of information on the internet about these persons, and there are also persons who you may know in your circle, in your network of people who work there, or who know someone who worked there, or if you know someone who works in a similar industry, another company in the industry that may be able to give you information about that company as well. So whatever means you need to get information, you get information. And so why do you want to get that information? You want to use it, first of all, because it's going to, when you have this information armed with going into the interview, and you can speak about the company's mission and vision in how you answer the question, you just drop it in like some sauce on top of your fries, right? And what that happens is that the employers or the interviewers were now listening to you and recognize that, okay, this person did their research, they're prepared, they must really want to work here. And it also gives the impression that you are diligent because you spent this time to gather information, as well as to actually absorb it enough that you can apply it in how you answer the questions. And so it gives us an idea of how you will approach your job. We are going to say that, okay, if you were that diligent to prepare for the interview, then clearly you'll be that diligent and meticulous in order to carry out your job if you were supposed to be given that position, right? So, and then another thing you want to use that information to do is to use it to ask intelligent questions. A lot of times when interviewers ask us, do you have anything that you want to ask? You don't have anything to ask because you don't know anything to ask about. And so you need to get some information so that you can know things to ask about. Right, so it's not just for knowledge's sake. People say knowledge is power. I disagree. It's applied knowledge, that's power. So you have that information and then be able to use it in your questions. Okay, so you might say, all right, I know that Jamalco's vision, they have 6 main areas that they work on in terms of results, people, community, customers, environment, health and safety, integrity. These are some of the areas that are important to Jamalco's organization. I see that in based on the skill set that I have, I may be able to contribute to the results area in this way. And you work that into your conversations, or you ask a question about an EHS policy or about some community work, whatever it is, but you're using that information to ask intelligent questions and to communicate. Okay. So next, what you also want to know is, in addition to information about the company and what they do and how they do what they do, you want to know information about the position that you are applying for. So whether you saw the vacancy on LinkedIn, as Ms. Plummer spoke about, or online, whether it was in a newspaper, so a friend sent it to you, get the details of the advertisement. And you don't want to just look at the position in terms of the qualification or requirements, because that's usually where we go to, okay, am I qualified for this? And you go there first. We also want to spend some time going through the competencies or the tasks that this position, you're expected to fulfill. And you spend time going through, not just asking yourself, oh, can I do this? But you ask yourself, how can I do this, right? And so even if the answer for some of those questions, okay, can I do this, is you're not sure, you asking how can I trains your brain to figure out how can I do this? What experiences do I have in my past that I can actually use to show that I have competencies in this area? All right, and so you want to make sure that you're looking at those specific competencies and that the employers have identified, or the key tasks that you need to be able to do, and you show that in your answers, you scatter them throughout You know, okay, you show by your stories, by how you answer the questions that, okay, I have that skill set, or this is experience that I have gone through in my past that has prepared me to be able to do this task. All right, and so you're using the answers, that you're using what they're looking for to show them that you are who they're looking for. Hopefully that makes sense. So you also want to be able to ask questions of the people who work there, or somewhere else in a similar post. What else does this person do? Because they may give you a details or list of tasks in a job role or in a vacancy advertisement, but there are certain things that will never that will never make a job details or advertisement. That if somebody who is there that you can ask and get that sort of inside, in quotation marks, information, that may be able to help you. And it doesn't necessarily have to be very specific or technical information. It just it can be information about the department, it can be information about the culture of the company, but it's whatever access to information that you have, you don't be afraid to use it, even if you haven't spoken to this person for years, right? Or you know somebody who knows somebody. Don't be afraid to just call and ask, right? You can't receive if you don't ask. And so you also want to use that information to ask intelligent questions once again. Okay, so exceptional candidates come prepared to have conversations and to ask questions. So just like what I said before, so you're using information about the company to ask questions, you're using and to have intelligent conversations, and then you're also using information about the specific position or the department to have conversations, right? So if you're asking about, okay, so I'm in the research, development, and technology department. What else, what projects you can ask, what are some of the major projects that they're working on, right? Or if you may have some information as to some of the challenges in the industry being faced, whether it is bauxite or electricity or cement, you can actually ask questions about how they are handling specifics of, or to the challenges that industry currently faces. So they know that you are aware of what is happening, you're engaged, and you can actually be someone who can contribute to the solution, because first of all, you're aware of it, and two, you're actually engaging in conversation to think through or to brainstorm, right? And so those are some of the things that can seriously impress an interviewer. Then you want to engage your interviewers to check if your alignment or understanding of what the company or the position will be is actually what it is. So you can say, okay, so from my understanding of this post, this is what the job responsibilities would entail. This is what would be expected of me. Is that so? Ask the question, then you can get the clarification, and once again, it shows that you are thinking and you're engaged, you're fully there, and you're and you would and that because of that, you're also showing how much you are able to brainstorm and possibly present a solution, right? Before the interview, we're still continuing in terms of what else you need to know. So we covered information about the company, we covered information about the post or the position, and now we're going to be looking at information about the culture of the organization you're applying to. Now, you want to find out whether it is, but you're not going to find the culture of an organization in a vacancy, right? Or online on their website. So this one is a little bit more informal, but you want to find out the culture of the institution by talking to people who currently work there or have worked there or know someone who worked there, whether it was their mother, their sister, their uncle, their auntie, their second cousin, it don't matter, because there's no other way that you're going to find out about the culture of it than somebody who has had experience there. And so you really have to press into your network, right? But it's very important to find out about the culture, because this is not something that you would say in the interview, but this is more something that you would do in how you prepare yourself and how you handle yourself at the interview. For example, in some sense, you can use it to guide your behavior.
I'm sorry, but I can't help with that yet.
Versus an informal one. So you can use that to refer to them when interviewers introduce themselves. How do you, and you can listen and be very observant too, right? To see how do they introduce themselves. And you can use that to follow suit. So at Jamalco, it's a very informal culture. And so, we call each person by their first name. And so if someone introduces themselves to you, yes, they may say, I'm Michelle Henry, but you can call me Michelle. Or they may say, they may just introduce themselves as Michelle. Whereas in some other organizations, maybe, JPS or other organization, it might be a much more formal culture. I've worked in other environments or corporate settings, whether it is the bank or the telecommunications industry. and it is much more formal. And so you're expected to say Miss Henry or Mrs. Henry or Mrs. Grant. And you knowing that is not necessarily a huge difference, but it's these little things that actually compound to making you stand out as the best candidate in an interview. Because when you come in already knowing the culture and fitting in with the culture, this is like an unconscious allegiance that you're forming, that you would be a good fit in the interviewer's mind, because you know they don't have to wonder about if you would fit in or would you stand out like a sore thumb, or would you have challenges, you know, in interpersonal relationships or adapting the culture of the organization, because they know if you come to work here, you're going to have to learn the culture and adapt. And if you're unable to adapt satisfactorily, you're going to have challenges during your working time there. And so it helps to break down that barrier unconsciously between you, the interviewee, and interviewer, when you come into the interview already aligned with the culture of the organization. Okay. So you also want to spend some time looking at yourself. So this is the fourth thing of what you need to know and why, right? So we covered knowing about the company, covered knowing about the position, knowing about the culture, and now we also want to focus on yourself. You want to know yourself. Where is your heart and your passion as it relates to working? What is it that you really want to do in life, right? Your job, especially first, is something that you're going to be doing for a number of years. Not necessarily that it has to be at one specific organization, but it does impact whichever organization you work, and your experiences that you've gathered there does impact what you're able to do, and you know, in the future. And it is, if this is your career, your vocation, then this is a chart that you're setting for yourself, a course of passage, right? A journey. And so it's much more than a 9 to 5, and you're spending 8 hours a day, the minimum, at a job. This is going to be a significant portion of your life, and life is measured in time. So it has to be something that you are at least passionate about, or at least the very minimum can learn to be passionate about, because it is something that you. Okay, sure. So in order for you to be in order for you to make sure that you're contributing your best, you perform your best where you're passionate about, where your heart is. That's where you will excel. So you really have to ask yourself this question. I know I'm applying for this job interview, and this is not something that clearly you would discuss in the interview, but it's something that you want to know beforehand, that you figure out where is your heart or your passion, right? Is this something that I want to do for 15, 20 years, or is this something that I want to do to pass time till I get to where else I want to go? And you having that answer beforehand helps you to know if you're okay in terms of your current passion. You're really excited, and you know, this is what I'm focused on, and this is where I'm going to be studying and just growing in this specific area at this niche. Then you may be okay. But if you're saying, okay, this is not really where I want to work, but I couldn't really get a job somewhere else, so here's this post, I'm just going to apply for it. You're going to have to do some work to make sure that it doesn't come off like that in the interview. Right? And so you're going to have to make sure that you find aspects about the job that you can become excited about, that specific part of it or that specific aspect of the organization, and use that to channel, you know, in the interview. Because if you just really are there to pass the time and you really aren't that interested, how you handle yourself in the interview, it will come out. Right? So an organization, or all organizations, need good talent, but you know, yes, they're looking for good talent, but you are also looking for an organization where you can grow your talents and skill sets. So you have to also ask yourself the question, is this place it? And you have to be able to honestly answer that question, at least for the first, to be able to know what to do after you get the answers. But that's definitely the first step, to be able to answer the question. Because yes, they need persons like you, but it doesn't have to be you. And you need place somewhere to work, but it doesn't have to be there. Okay. All right. Next is, so all of that was preparing for the interview. So preparing yourself to go into the interview also includes how you look, your dress, right? So what do you want to have coming into the interview? Yes, we have, you know, recommended dress codes, and I'm going to go into that in a little bit, but just generally, I want to say, you don't have to do this, by the way. A lot of this is just recommendations. You can take one, just treat it like a supermarket, take and what fits you, right? And you can leave the rest. But I recommend walking with your accomplishments or your academic qualifications or whatever it is that you have achieved that you're proud of. Example, your final year project. right? Or if you've won any, if you've entered any competitions and won anything there, or anywhere that you have achieved any measure of success. You may not present this certificate or this qualification to the interviewers. They may not ask you for it, and you may not have an opportunity to present it. But if you have it on you, what that does for you psychologically, it is a physical, tangible reminder, physical evidence of your past successes, and it helps to build your confidence in how you conduct yourself and answer your questions, because once you have already succeeded, you know that you can succeed. And so anything to build your confidence in an interview, you want to go that direction. So in addition to walking with that, with your qualifications, just having them on you. Maybe it's like somebody, a security personnel with their I don't want to say a gun or whatever weapon, but they know that when you know that you have your weapon on you, you know you have power, right? And so it gives them confidence, and it makes them bolder. It makes them more brave to speak up and to say things, and not have as much self-doubt, racking your mind, because sometimes we can think of answers and you're like, but the interviewers don't want to hear that, and you talk yourself out of saying some very good, insightful things, or you talk yourself out of saying anything at all. Right. And so just having that physical evidence on you to boost your confidence is definitely a good thing to try. Dress your best. Statistics say that attractive people get more opportunities, and attractiveness is what first starts with confidence, as well as how you dress. And when you look good, you definitely feel better and you perform better. So these are pictures of just some recommended dress code that can happen for an interview, depending on where you're working, clearly, what we're applying for, but standard is to dress very formal. All right, let's show you some actual pictures of persons. So for the next slide, I have here some pictures of persons who, just some examples of, for the male and for the female, of how you can dress. So let's look into detail. So for your appearance, we know that looking taller is one way to command respect and to communicate that your presence, that you have an assertive presence. One way of looking taller, any way that you can find to look taller works. But here's some examples of ways that you can find to look taller. Wear vertical stripes. That's why men tend to wear pinstripe suits sometimes. And it gives impression that they're taller than they actually are, because it just lengthens their frame. Women, you can wear heels, but please, only if you can walk in them properly. So if you need to practice beforehand walking in them, then go ahead and do so. But if you can't walk in them properly, wear a lower heel or no heel at all. Wear flats, and that's fine. Once it's a nice flats, it's fine. It's better to wear flats than to walk in heels that you're tripping over, right? You'd also want to be able to stand or sit up straight. Don't slouch. So don't do this. Right, sit upright. And it shows that you have a much more commanding presence and that you have confidence. Anything to make yourself look taller or create a grander presence. So you may have other, strategies. These are just a few, but whatever you can do, maybe it's a way that you sit, maybe it's a way that you position your limbs. Whatever you can do that is appropriate to make yourself looking taller or commanding that sort of confidence and respect, go ahead and do that. So this is not an exclusive list. This is really just meant to give you some ideas. Also, you want to wear clothes that you've worn before but are not tattered. And let me explain what I mean. Now, sometimes for an interview, especially if you've been going to school for 4 years and this is your first set of interviews, right? You may not have a lot of working clothes or interview clothes, right? Formal wear. But you want to don't just buy a really new suit and put that on. And the first time you're wearing this new suit or new outfit is the interview. Because what happens, it isn't as authentic. Once again, these are just the subtle things, right? But these are the small things that build up. So wearing that new suit, especially if the tag is still on it, you can see the creases, where it just was purchased. It communicates that, okay, I'm not really that interested in this position. I'm just, I'm just doing this for the sake of it. I just decided to just get something and put on, right? So if that is the case and you don't have any news, so you have to get something new, wear it at least once or twice before the interview, so you can break it into a little bit, shows that it fits you and you can be much more at home in the outfit and be much more yourself. It communicates that sort of authenticity that we're looking for, and it doesn't feel like you're putting on a facade just for this interview. And of course, you don't want the outfit to be tattered or worn or holes or anything like that in it either. So for in terms of what you wear, colors, if you can wear bright colors, I mean, this, by the way, you can temper this depending on how formal the organization is or the culture of the organization, as I said before. But generally, on a whole, bright colors are pleasant to look at, and it does make us feel better about who we're looking at. You don't have to wear full black, right, all the time, or full brown, right? You can put on a, you know, if you're wearing a tie, then you are, you know, you can put on a little colorful tie, or you can wear a suit, or at least a part of the suit that has some color, right? And this, of course, as I said, is tempered by the organization. One thing you may also try as well is you may want to wear the colors of the organization, whether the tie or a shirt. And for example, Jamalco's colors are green, Digicel is red, Flow is blue, right? And you may be able to figure that out from beforehand. And these are just unconscious ways of creating allegiance and breaking down barriers with the interviewers. So you want to make sure also that your nails, hair, skin, and teeth are properly groomed. This goes for both males and females. You don't want to eat just before and have something stuck in your teeth, and you're talking, answering questions throughout the whole interview, and something is stuck in your teeth. All right, so check before. Women, you want to wear light makeup or natural looking makeup, or if you don't wear makeup, that's fine as well. Just remove the oil or shine from your face. And this also may apply to males as well. So if you find that it's shiny, just you can go ahead and wash your face before, and that should help. You also want to eliminate any distractions. Now, some of the things that interviewers look for, you know, is how you handle yourself in the setting. And sometimes because the interviewees, or let's call them the candidates, are nervous. And that can happen if you're coming out of university, especially if you don't have much working experience, you haven't done this a lot, you may be nervous. And even when you have working experience and you're doing an interview for a job that you really, really want, you're still nervous, right? And so you may end up doing things unconsciously because you're nervous, just to eliminate that nerves. You want to be aware of what you're doing with your limbs, with your body, with your mouth. So, and to avoid distractions. You want to avoid tapping the table unnecessarily or just repeatedly with your hands or feet. You want to avoid chewing gum or anything that can give the impression of you being so nervous, because once again, this is very subtle, but unconsciously it can communicate a lack of a capacity to handle pressure in, you know, situations where there's a lot of pressure. And so even, and I'll speak some more about how to handle nerves, you know, later on, but it's okay to be nervous. It's just be aware of what you're doing while you're nervous, right? So that's how we look. Now, what else do you want to bear in mind when you're at the interview? How do you speak? So what do you want to say? The best predictor of future performance is past performance. What do I mean? And I heard one of the questions that someone was asking Miss Plummer earlier when they said they didn't have a lot of experience. How can they prepare for jobs or in job interviews when they don't necessarily have a lot of working experience? You may not have a lot of working experience, but you have experiences. The experiences that you relate in a job interview does not have to be limited to a working context or a job context. It can be something you could have learned leadership skills by being in Girl Guides, or by being involved in extracurricular activities, by doing charity work. You have also experiences that you would have had while you have been a student at Utech. You have experiences that you've gained there, whether it is on hall and you're participating in sporting committees, or even projects that you have done as part of your coursework. At the end of the day, it's not what you did, it is what do you learn from it that you can talk about, that shows that you have the skill set that match the specific competencies they're looking for. So once again, go back to what I spoke about in terms of the job description. The employers will identify competencies they are looking for. Find what those competencies are. Whatever they're looking for, find experiences that you have had in your life. It doesn't matter what it is or where it comes from, as long as you can frame it in a way to show that this experience has caused me to grow in this area, and I have developed this skill set because of it. And you can frame your answers in that way and tell your story. And pretty much you're really selling yourself and your experiences through doing this, right? So you want to be able to formulate your answers to the questions by preparing stories from your experiences. Before you even go into the interview, just think, what are some of the positive attributes that I have now? What are some of the skills that I have now? Where did I learn them? And if you need to write them out, write them out. And what that does is you have this ammunition in your bag. So you have arsenal. Once you get the questions, you're just trying to figure out, okay, where do I answer with this story? Where do I answer with this story? And you want to make sure that you're talking about stories, because facts tell, but stories sell. People will not necessarily remember the numbers coming out of that interview, but we will always remember the story you shared about when you were doing a youth group and nobody wanted to participate, and you had to go to each person individually and talk to them and inspire them. And then eventually everybody came together and you were able to achieve a purpose, right? And it shows that, that shows skill set, that shows people skills, and that matters. Right. And so you bring those examples and you try to figure out how they would fit and be an asset to you on the job. So in addition to preparing those stories and trying to figure out where they fit in as you're being asked the questions in the interview, you also want to look at how are you speaking. Practice speaking before you go in the interview. Go in a mirror. Talk to yourself in the mirror. Maybe record yourself on using your phone and listen to how you sound. You might notice you use a lot of filler words. When I did that, just listen to myself speaking and let's replayed it, and I recognize how many times I asked you get it, or you say or that's right, or you aren't conscious of it until you listen to it or someone tells you. So you practice to take out those filler words as much as possible. You also want to work on your intonation, right, which is your voice. You can use your voice to show expression, right, like I've been doing on purpose. You can also speak very, very flat and in a monologue way and put the interviewers to sleep and make us bored to death. And so you want to actually add some excitement to your voice, add some highs and some lows to your voice appropriately, right, to create interest and camaraderie. You also want to look at the facial expression on your face. Make sure it's a positive, warm, and welcoming one, and you're not screwing up your face and being a grouchy. And sometimes you're not doing that on purpose. As I say, you may just be nervous. Right, you might be hungry, right, but sometimes it come across on your face that you're very disinterested and you're not necessarily a pleasant person, and that's not the impression you're trying to give, but you're unaware of it because you don't know what your face looks like. You also want to practice your body language, as well as, one thing I would say about this too is that as a Jamaican, the gentlest Jamaican tends to be aggressive compared to most other cultures. And so if you're interviewing for a job in Jamaica, it may not be so much of an issue because us Jamaicans are very, aggressive on a whole. But if you're interviewing for jobs in the international marketplace, you want to be considerate of the fact that you are Jamaican, and by nature, Jamaicans, that's just how we are. It's our culture, even the most timid Jamaican. And so you want to make sure that when you're answering your question, it's your body language, your nonverbal, they said about between 78% or over 70% of your communication is nonverbal, right? And so you want to be looking at your nonverbal expressions and your tone of voice and all of that to ensure that you are not coming off too aggressive, especially if you're interviewing with an international company, which a lot of you may end up doing. Right, and I heard that was one of the recommendations that Ms. Plummer gave earlier in terms of persons looking for opportunities, especially in the chemical engineering field. And you may decide, okay, Jamaica doesn't have as many opportunities as I would want, so you apply elsewhere. But be aware of those little cultural barriers. Now, just as like I was saying before, facts tell, but stories sell. And so one of the ways that you can use to frame your story is the STAR analogy, STAR. So the S is the situation that you were in when this is like storytelling, but in a way that's applicable and relevant to the interview question that is asked. So the S to describe the situation that you were in, or T the task that you were assigned to do, and A, what actions did you take in the situation, and R, what were the results you got. So you think of STAR and you use that to give a story, and the story, please don't make the story last 15 minutes, right? You can tell a story in 1 minute or 2 minutes max. And also when you're describing the actions you took, please speak from the first person. Say, I did this, or I tried this, or I got the idea and then I did this, right? And so you want to do that. And you don't want to speak in the third person and say, oh, Michelle tried this, or Marvet tried this, or Michael tried this. And then also, you don't want to also say, we did, right? And so yes, you can say, you know, it's sometimes they're saying that, oh, the group did this, and you might think that it communicates teamwork, which is true, it does, but it doesn't communicate that you know what to do in that situation, and it could be somebody else figuring out what to do and you just went along with it. So it doesn't mean that that is going to be an inclination for us for your future performance in a similar way. You want to make sure you say that I did this, I took this action, because we're not trying to hire the team, we're trying to hire you. So what else do you want to bear in mind at the interview? Now, most interviewers and most companies have a scorecard or a rating sheet that they use to score the candidate's performance or their answers to questions at the interview. And the answers to questions is as well as in addition to how they look, how they dress, all of that, right? So this one is that I've pasted here on this. Just on the presentation. It's not from Jamaco. It was just one that I found online, but it does give you an idea of some of the things that employers can look for in terms of firm handshake. What was their introduction like? Did they make good eye contact, smiling? Did they seem comfortable? Were they confident? Were they appropriately dressed? And did they bring their resume? Not most companies here in Jamaica may ask you to send in it. They would have sent in your resume before when you applied for the job, so they may not ask you to bring a copy. They may already have it, but you having a copy of your resume on hand is also a great way to use your past experiences to answer questions, because you have your experiences looking at. Sometimes you know you did something, but you can't remember where or when, and so having information on hand can help you. So whatever you can add to your arsenal and bring with you, you do that. And so when it comes to answering the questions, right, you want to make sure that you're following all these tips that I gave you before, because you can be an excellent candidate and score poorly because you do not know what employers are looking for. You can make contact with someone in the HR department of the company and ask, when doing an interview, what are some of the competencies you look for? So this might be competencies that are not specific to the job, but specific to the organization, or or the department. And you can use this to get an edge over others with more experience or higher grades. And so for persons here, especially if you're coming out of university where you don't have that much experience, and you're very conscious of that, because I remember when I finished my degree and I was doing my first job interview, that was something I kept saying over and over. I don't have much experience, but this is what I do. I don't have much experience, and I kept drilling it, saying it over and over. And I look back and I was just like, I only did that because I was insecure about my lack of experience. And it just so happened that the person that I was interviewing with, they didn't mind that I didn't have a lot of experience, because what they were looking for was I teachable? What was my mindset like? And they asked me to see one example of my final year project. And when I showed them what I did and how I did it, they were satisfied with that. So they said that, they don't necessarily need me to come in with loads of experience, because sometimes it's contrary to what they have done. And I would have to unlearn and relearn to do it their way, because it was with an international company. And so, but it doesn't help to be saying over and over and over that you don't have much experience, right? You can use the information that you've received, whether from the HR department there or from any other means that you have access to getting an idea of what they looked for. You can use that to give you an edge. You can get rated higher mathematically using this job interview scorecard, and so that you come out as a top candidate in that interview, even if you're not the candidate with the most experience. And it's simply because you were able to say the right things, do the right things, and express yourself properly. And so if what you are emphasizing is what they are looking for, this can help you to come out as the top ranking candidate, because really it is mathematics, right? So if you guys are engineering students, engineer out the interview. Some of the things that we look for in terms of rating sheets, we tend to look for leadership skills, people skills, problem solving ability. You make sure you're a solution seeker, especially for an engineering post, conflict resolution, analytical thinking, and flexibility, and exemplify these competencies in your stories and your answers. All right, so we're winding down. What else do you want to bear in mind during the interview? Now, when you come into the interview, these are mostly persons that more than likely you would never have seen before. And so they'll be new to you. When they introduce themselves, I would say just quickly, as soon as you get a chance to sit down, then you jot down their names in the order which they're seated or introduce themselves, because it's going to take it's not going to be it just happens to happen very quickly for you to get an idea of who these persons are. You may not even catch both names, but you may just quickly you draw a circle or a box or whatever, or just write down their names wherever they're seated, and you use that to get an idea of who is who. And it's okay to say, I didn't catch your name, can you repeat that for me, please? And you just quickly jot down their name, right? And you want to do that so that you can call them by their name when you're answering the questions in the interview. You're not going to overdo it, and every minute is, okay, John, yes, John, well, okay, sure, John. You're not going to do that, but you also want to be able to do it at least once or twice for the different persons. Maybe not for everybody, but for different persons, or the ones that you communicate, ones that you got their name for. And what that does is that it communicates people skills loud and clear. You don't have to say, I have people skills. You're demonstrating people skills. And if you don't have people skills as engineers, we may not necessarily be known for the top, for our high ranking people skills, but it's something that we can learn. And here's a very good way to learn it, because there's no sweeter name to any person than their own name. So you use the opportunity to pay the interviewers that compliment. Next, be engaging and conversational. Please don't be boring, right? Engage interviewers at appropriate times with appropriate questions. And when you're asked, tell me about yourself, please don't talk about yourself in the third person. Well, Michelle did this. Well, this happened and Michelle did it. No, it gives the impression of self-importance, and it can annoy some of the academic persons in the interview panel, right? Another thing is that you don't want to be general especially in terms of your answers to questions. Like if you're shaping your stories, don't be a wandering generality of just talking on and on, and first interviewers were wondering, what does that have to do with the question we ask? Be a meaningful specific. Be specific and applicable to the question that you were asked. So you want to use the opportunity to speak about, yes, the strengths that you have that are related to the job, and you give the knowledge that is job related. And so, for example, I have a degree in industrial engineering. Skills that I learned include problem solving and critical thinking. This has helped me to, and you describe the situation that you were in and how that skill set enabled you to perform adequately and the result that you achieved because of it. So be meaningful and specific. Also be authentic. For example, when you're nervous, it's okay to say, I have a little nerves going on right now. And you can also say, because I really want this job, or I really want to work at this organization because I love this organization or admire this organization so much. So I am a little nervous, but it will get better as I go along. That's great. That's great to hear, because what that does for us from the interviewer side is that it communicates that you can handle a challenge with positivity and you're not going to crumble under pressure. Now, when you're given a chance to ask questions at the end of the interview, the interviewers usually ask, do you have any questions? Please find something to ask. Don't say, oh, I have no questions. Like, no. What that does is that it communicates that you're not engaged, or you're not currently thinking, or you really don't want the job, you're just here passing time. If you armed yourself with all of that information that I recommended earlier, information about the business, the department, the position, the culture, right? And you have this information, anything that are stories that you know for yourself personally, anything that did not come up in the interview, or you weren't able to throw into your answers to the questions that were asked. Because remember, you're coming in with stories, you're coming in with information, and you're just finding, like a puzzle, finding where you can put each puzzle piece based on the question that's asked, which one is the most appropriate for that answer. But you may have some information that was not presented or spoken about. Use it to ask an intelligent question, because what that does, it communicates that you actively want to be part of the organization, that you're engaged, you're thinking, you're present, you're interacting, and that it will also enable you to be rated more highly, right, in the interview. After the interview, so you've done all of that. You've prepared yourself with knowledge and practice looking at yourself. You have gone into the interview, answer the questions to your best of ability, using your stories, using STAR to frame your stories to make sure they're specific and meaningful, and conduct yourself properly, dressing properly, commanding respect, all of that, and the interview is done. So when the interview is done, post-pandemic, you give a good handshake and say thank you for the opportunity to be interviewed at the organization, and I look forward to hearing from you soon. And if it is now that we're in COVID, we're not necessarily doing that, right? But at least say thank you for the opportunity to be interviewed with them. Now, this one is a little bit out there, meaning the thank you letter or emails. It is ineffective for the most part in altering the decision that is being made to choose the top candidate. That decision is made unconsciously during the interviews when they compare the candidates with each other, but unconsciously or formally at the end of the interview, when all the interviewers would have compared their score for the different candidates, and they combine or average the results. Now, the thank you letters or emails can't change your mathematical score. However, there are times when it can sway the decision because of the courtesy. Now, let me give you a story that can explain to you what I mean by that. So Kwesi at our company, Kwesi is one of our superintendents there, and he shared this story with me that when he was interviewing with a particular organization, he did not come out as a top candidate from the interviews. He didn't know what order he formed, but he wasn't the one that was chosen. However, he still sent in a thank you letter, right? And that should show you how long ago that was in terms of people mailing letters, but it can be an email for our tech days, with time and age. And he sent in a thank you letter just saying thank you for the opportunity to this interview, and these are some of the things I may have learned. And you may have included in the thank you email something that you forgot to say during the interview, but you really want the interviewers to hear. And for him, it didn't necessarily, he doesn't know if that is why, but what happened is the person who came out as a top candidate actually must have fell off the face of the earth, because they did not show up, they did not communicate, they did not respond, they just disappeared. I don't know if they migrated, moved, got another job or what, but the top candidate fell out. Because of that, they were looking for someone else to fill the post. Instead of re-interviewing all the candidates or reposting the advertisement, they actually just chose him because of, and the thank you letter, and we're assuming that the thank you letter did make a difference because he was the one who was given the post, and he does believe that the courtesy, because it's something that they said to him, that the courtesy that he extended to them, at the very minimum, it would have made him fresh in their minds and would have shown that his skill set in terms of people skills and also dealing with challenges or situations that's less than ideal in the results that you wanted, but you're still able to approach it with a positive attitude. And so that can communicate a natural, or unconscious, an unconscious skill set. And that's the last of the presentation. So thank you for that. And I hope it was good. And now I will have some time for any questions, and hopefully I can answer, and hopefully it was beneficial for you.
As Engineer Henry, is very, 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 very good. Very good presentation. All right. Before I ask my questions, my slate of questions, I'm gonna open the floor for everybody else to ask their questions.
No questions? Either it was so clear and so good, or
Yeah,
everything went over everybody's head and they had nothing to think about.
Well, I can say it was very clear. I can say that. Or maybe they're thinking about their questions in the meantime. So I guess I can start stirring up those questions by asking some of my questions. All right. So one of the few things that you said that stuck out to me was you said attractive people get more opportunities. So ugly people kind of losing or what?
Depends on what you call ugly. The most attractive thing about someone is their confidence.
That's true. I was joking about that. The real question though is you spoke about attire. You spoke about a lot about attire and dressing and looking the part and the clothes and everything. In this day and age, could you speak a little bit more about hair? What is quote unquote acceptable hairstyles for both men and females when it comes on to being in the interview or going to the interview?
Here, okay. So this question of here is a very, how do I say it? There's no strict one size fits all. Once again, it goes back to the culture of the organization that you're applying to. And this is where you have to know the culture. What organization are you applying to? How formal or informal are they? How do they think about here? Because it's not necessarily what I want to think about it is what's the organization. So if you're going into a corporate setting and you're applying to work at a bank, or I don't know, separate, and they're very, very formal in how they operate. Everything is by their surname. It's Mr. James, Miss Henry, and you have to make sure that you're properly dressed. You have to wear a corporate outfit most times, whether it is suit or long sleeve shirt. Then usually the hairstyles that they would find acceptable for the work environment is what you want to make sure that you fit in that culture when you're going in with your hair in the interview. So if they're very, very formal, they may not take very pleasantly to hair that is not short and groomed for males. And for females, they may not necessarily take very pleasantly to really bright colors in the hair. I'm not saying that can stop, that is going to be a deciding factor to stop you. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying is bear in mind the culture of the organization, because you can go with the same hairstyle, whether it is locks or hair that's gold and purple or pink, and you go to a company where they really don't care what your hair is or what your hair is like, right? And so because of that, you're able to it's not a factor that works against you, because it isn't because of the culture of the organization. They don't care. They're very informal, very low-key in terms of dress. That really doesn't matter. And so what you have to do is do your homework. Where are you interviewing? What is their culture like? And what will they look favorably on? And what will they not look favorably on? I will share with you a story though, that one of my first interviews coming out of university, when I was in my, I think it was final year, at the end of final year, I cut my hair in a mohawk, and I did dye it 2 different colors. So the middle part that was high was blonde, and then the sides that were low were dark, or my natural dark colored hair. And I had I was enjoying my summer break, and then I got a call for an interview before the summer end. And I was like, my hair. And you should just see me patting down to try to make it look like one level, which I did manage to kind of make it look like one level, but you can't hide the color of the hair, right? that was not just not ability to hide. But what was funny is that where I was applying was actually an engineering firm. It was an international firm, and that's another thing. An international firm may have a different policy compared to a local Jamaican organization. They may be different. And so it actually turned out to not be so much of an issue, but I can't say if I had applied to a local company, especially if it was a bank or a corporate post, if it would have been a similar response. So you just really have to do your work and do whatever it takes. Hopefully that answers your question.
And it totally answers it. And next question though, that is a bit touchy. When it comes on to salary. So let's say the salary isn't listed in the offering, for the job offering. Is it okay for me, for one of the questions, if they ask me if I have any questions, to ask about salary?
Mm-hmm. All right, so you're asking if they ask you if you have any questions, is it okay to ask about salary?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Once again, it goes back to the culture of the organization. Everywhere is different. You have to be like a chameleon in order to be able to give the best result for the situation or the setting you're in. You cannot be just focused on what you want to know. What is the culture? There's some organizations that it will not matter. It will be looked upon as, it'll be expected, right? To say, okay, they're very informal. The color of your hair doesn't matter as much, and they expect you to ask about salary, and they won't think anything too unfavorably about you asking about the remuneration. And they may be able to answer or they may not, because what will also happen is that some of the interviewers may not know the salary assigned to that position. And so it really is the HR person and the person who maybe even your supervisor will be the only persons that know, but primarily the HR person that would know the salary. So the others may not even know or be able to answer, right? And so in that setting, it may be appropriate if the culture is very informal and you're at ease, and you can use even the conversations and how they speak and how they carry themselves when you walk into the organization. So even if you're unsure, when you walk into how the persons are conducting themselves, is it a really formal environment, is it really casual, and use that to determine. But just to summarize, the persons who are really formal, if they're old-fashioned older persons, carry themselves very well, address you Mr. James, they may not take kindly to you asking about that. But if the persons are much more casual, they call you Marwin, is this, and they're talking much more casual or informal, they may not see it as such an unfavorable question. Or however, if you're not sure, then don't ask. At that point in time, if you are assigned the role, then that is when they will present you an offer. And when you present the offer, you will see it. And at that point, you can ask about it, and you can even ask for a change. I'm not saying that you will get it, but let them actually choose you as the top candidate first, where you actually have leverage, right? And then you actually ask at that point in time. But asking too early, especially when there's only one person who's asking you and may even be able to answer the question, and they may not want to answer, may not be your best timing, and it may be looked on unfavorable, but it's a risk that you take. All right, hopefully that helps.
Understood. Ravina McLeod, you have a question?
Yes, since seeing as though you're on the topic of like appearance and stuff like that, piercings. I know, how would you advise somebody to go about with piercings going to an interview?
All right. Nice question, Ravina. So I'm going to ask you, it depends on the type of piercings. Do you have a specific type of piercing you're asking about, or just piercings on a whole?
Well, your ears. I know that facial piercings are definitely a turn off for any company that you're going into. Too many facial piercings, but like your ear piercings specifically. Let's say you have one ear that is full of piercings and the other one only has like 2 or 3 on it.
Okay.
Are you asking in relation to a bar? Like if you have a bar and maybe a cartilage piercing?
I'm asking in relation to you have earlobe and your cartilage is full, and your other ear does have 3 earlobe piercings.
Okay.
Okay. And I see Bradley in the chat is answering. Bradley, you are totally right. It goes right again back to the culture of the company. That's where you have to do your research. Prepare. What is the culture of the company like? There are some places that they're informed may not be an issue, but there are other companies where they're expecting you to dress really formal. Having too many piercings may be and not looked on favorably. And so if you are able to identify the culture of the organization, you can use that to determine, do I wear all of these piercings to the interview, or do I wear only one, or do I wear, even if I'm wearing one, or do I wear 2, what is the size of the piercings, and you use that to gauge. At the end of the day, if it's an interview and you're creating a first impression and you're unsure, less is more. You still have the piercing, they still have the hole right there. So if you go into the organization and you go into the interview, and you take them out, or you keep it very minimal, and you observe what other persons there with piercings, are your piercings shown, what is the culture like, and you can use that to determine if you have given the position, how do you wear the piercing the next time you go, or the jewelry, not necessarily the piercing, but you wear the jewelry right in the piercing the next time you go, or even while you're working there, based on what you have observed. So before going in, do your research on the culture. 2, observe while you are there, and 3, less is more to go. If you're unsure of what it is, you just can't figure out the information. Less is more. You have the person in the future. You have it. You can always wear it, put it in at another time if you deserve that. If it's good fit. But at an interview, try to do your research as much as possible, and less is more. Hopefully that helps. Davida.
Thank you.
Okay, awesome.
The floor is open for any other question. Well, let me just step into some of the questions persons would have sent when they were signing up for this seminar. All right, somebody would have asked, and I think you touched on it slightly, about is it okay to call a company back which promised further feedback during the job application process?
Yes, it's quite okay. I've done that a couple times. Especially if they have if they've made a promise just to give you additional information, there's nothing wrong with calling them and asking, or saying, I actually did an interview about a week, or give it some time, give it at least 2-3 weeks, right? Don't the day after the interview and expect that you're going to have the information. So give them some time first of all, and then to say, okay, I was promised that I would have been given some information, and I'm follow up to see maybe if you have certain information, and it may have just not have, and or if you haven't sent the information as yet, do you plan to, and when, if so, when can I look out for it? And if not, if they, depending on their answer, you can choose what other questions to ask. But you can also ask, to get feedback on your performance in the interview. So if you were not chosen as the top candidate, and they let you know when you call. So normally companies will state in their advertisements that only the selected candidates would be communicated or would be contacted. So if you're not contacted, you can assume that you weren't selected. It's okay, even at that point when you're not hear from them, to call, introduce yourself, be very pleasant, and just identify the fact that you recognize that you weren't communicated with, so that you weren't the one chosen as the top candidate, and to ask for some feedback on your performance in the interview. I know that you don't have to tell me, but seeing that you were in the interview, would you be able to share areas that I may be able to improve in, or what are some of the things that I may have done or I could have done to better improve my performance? And I've done that. Right? So it's just being friendly, polite, but asking for the information and that you need. So hopefully that answers your question.
All right, thank you. Catherine is asking, well, how do you answer if they ask what's the expected salary, or what do you expect to be paid? Is there a good answer? Is there a correct answer, or a perfect way, quote unquote perfect way, to answer a question like this?
If there's a perfect, quote unquote perfect answer, would be a range. If you're looking for a perfect answer, there's a range. Most jobs have a range of salary depending on your years of experience, the qualification, right? Which is why it is kind of okay to negotiate after you've been appointed, after you've been communicated with that you were chosen as a candidate. You can actually ask, can this be increased? I'm not saying that you're going to get it. I tell you no, but it's okay to ask, because most positions have a range of salary that you just probably don't know about. The next thing is that the salary, if you much for your expected salary, this goes back to your preparation. And so I want to be armed with as much information as possible. I didn't include salary as one of the informations to highlight, but that's one of the things that you can also research. Go online and figure out what is the approximate salary for this position for engineers. Most persons here are engineers, and the type of engineer in this role, in this industry, and you'll get a range depending on where they are, whether it's Jamaica or international, and you might have an idea. But from that, you can also talk to industry. They may not want to, your friends may or may not want to tell you their salary, but you can ask them. I know, even if they don't want to tell you how much they get paid, ask them, okay, can you give me a range? You know, is it 200,000, 300,000? Is it 150 to 250? You know, what is it, 100 to 300,000? Get a range. And so if they are if you're asked what type of salary do you expect, give a range. If you go too high, they may think they can't pay you, and that is based on the fact that if the company is really small and they don't have that sort of money, they may say, okay, we can't afford her or can't afford him. But you would know, you wouldn't want to do that, because you would have go in armed with the information that this is a really small, you know, business. For example, a local manufacturing company with 5 employees or 10 employees, they may not be able to pay you the same salary as a huge corporate conglomerate. And so do your research and give a range. Does that help?
Sure, that does help. So if in the interview they ask me that, I can really and truly know the company before and give that range that I expect. So answer the question with a range, in essence.
You can. I mean, yeah, that's what I would recommend, because if they ask you, there's a reason they're asking you. Most interviewers aren't going to necessarily ask you that if they can pay you. How do I say? Let me choose my words carefully. So
at market.
If what?
If they can pay you at market.
Exactly. Thank you, Mrs. Grant. That was what I was trying to get to. If they can pay you at market or even more than that, they're not interested in asking you that question, because they have that power and that bucket to pay you whatever it is suitable for the cost. If they're asking you that question, usually it's the smaller companies that may not be able to pay you at market, and wondering if you would be willing to work with a lower than market, and so they're asking you, what do you want? So does that help?
And then the range works at that point.
No,
so another thing that students can do is keep track of the range of salaries you see appear in the Glean and the Observer, so you know exactly where. Because you know, say for instance, Windalco will tell you they need a process engineer, salary ranging from say 1.2 million per annum to 1.7. Now you know 1.2 is really entry level without experience and probably just walking out of university. So you know exactly what the range looks like. And a separate may say 975,000 to 1.5. So you know you have a little, so you keep track of that. Read that section, that little fine print up at the top under process engineer needed, and one little fine line will tell you. Yeah, read it.
Yep. And record them, as Mrs. Grant said, because when you need the information, you may not even remember what the range you saw on the advertisement was. So write them down or store them somewhere. That's very good. That's very, very good advice, Mrs. Grant.
Really good. I'll make note of that as well. You know, that's very important. And just to segue into the next question, which, you know, kind of goes outside of the norms. I know you spoke and answered this question in terms of the culture of the company itself, but for something outside of the norm of things that kind of covers most companies. Jermaine is asking if he goes to an interview with his hair dyed. He's a male, goes to an interview with his hair dyed. Is it a turn off? Or would it be slightly accepted as we move on in the world, something extreme or outside of the norm? How would interviewers look at something like that? Him going as a male with his dyed hair.
Okay, so similar to how we've spoken about, yes, it's determined, it is based on the culture of the organization, and also what color is the dye? Right? What color is the hair? Is it green, purple,
or pink?
Pink, right? I cannot say that even if you go to a company where it is the most young, hip company.
Sorry, I don't know the answer to this one, but I'm learning.
Formal, and you can be informal in how you dress. If you go with pink hair in the interview, I don't know, right? That may not necessarily be considered the norm. And so the color of the dye is color of the hair is a factor, and also the culture of the organization. So you have to do your research. And I noticed there are a lot of questions about coming up. So let me just help you guys with a mindset. Instead of looking for specifics of what do I do and what not, it's almost like you're looking for a line to say, okay, I can go right up against this line, but don't cross it. All right, you're looking for a boundary. a list of do's and don'ts and very clear, things or tasks that you should and shouldn't do. And what I'm saying to you, one, that's not necessarily always the case because it varies with company to company based on the culture. But two, you want to ensure that when you're going into an interview, what is the mindset that you want to have about how you carry yourself? There are lots of things in an interview that are outside of your control, especially if you're starting off, you're coming out of university right now, you don't have a lot of experience or work experience. That is not within your control. You can't do anything about that. And so if that is a part of the rating on the scorecard, you can't change that number you're going to get. That's just the number of years of experience you have. That's it. There are other things that you can work that are within your control that you choose to do to create favor or to get a higher rating based on how you perform or conduct yourself in the interview. So there's some things you can control and some things that you can't, especially if the things that you can't control are not where you want them to be. You don't have as much experience, you don't have as much leverage or bargaining chip, you don't have 3 different job offers. So when you're going to this interview, you have that confidence level knowing that a lot of companies want you, and you can use that as a marketing or as a bargaining tool, or just really to increase your confidence that you know what you're talking about. You don't have those, you may not have those stuff. If you cannot increase the things that are outside of your control, whatever that is within your control that you can actually improve your performance at and your possibility to get a high rating, why not maximize on that? Instead of looking for the look for the maximum thing that can give me the highest score in an interview, right? What am I, don't be a lot of these questions with hairstyle and color, there are subtle. It might be a risk, to go in to be unsure. There's no set answer based on, but here's what is guaranteed. So that for those questions, there's no guarantee, but guaranteed. Maximize on the things that are within your control so that you can get the best result possible in an interview, and things that are outside of your control that you can't do anything about. If those are working against you, that's so be it. But whatever you have in your control to maximize your performance in the interview as best as possible, why not focus on those so that you get the most favorable result possible? Does that make sense?
That makes
a lot of sense. Another thing I'd like to add, Miss Henry, when it comes to, the thing is that, as you say, research in general, if you're applying for a job in a government institution right away, you know that some things will not be accepted right off the bat. Smaller company, they may accept some things that the larger conglomerates will not accept. But just going neutral. You don't need to get it. Landing a job is not necessarily a fashion statement kind of thing. Don't go there to make certain statements. You're prepared. When you're in the organization, then you can gradually change up things. And that is, when I was growing up, my mommy usually said to me, careful of what you add to your body. Wear your pierce. What tattoos you might want to wear, because you need to put them in places where you can cover them up if needs be. Yeah. And, persons will say, it's just a tattoo is nothing. It depends on who is interviewing you. And your resume and cover letter may sell you as a person, but when you turn up to the interview, it's like, oh, we wanted an engineer that we could send to represent us, to do presentations, to be the face of the company, but we can't use Mrs. Grant because Mrs. Grant has a tattoo that comes all the way up on her neck, and we really don't want that. Except we're going to tell her that she needs to wear the turtleneck tops every day, and Jamaica is a very hot country. I don't think the turtleneck will work. So you just need to go in neutral. No matter with the statement. You're not registered to make statements yet. So we're going neutral.
Agreed.
I totally agree. And well, one of the questions that was asked before, and I think you touched on it about things that we can control and we can't control, and one of that is experience, right? Especially now, a lot of us are having problems getting internships and jobs and stuff like that, mainly now because of the pandemic, right? A question that was asked before was, what do you have any tips or so of ways persons can gain experience while attending university, especially now during the pandemic?
All right, so where we are right now in the pandemic is a very difficult time. A lot of the companies that would have been doing internships or summer programs may not be doing those so much. And so for you to get experience, it causes you to be a bit more creative and to be more determined to just get the experience that you need. Meaning, if it's not easily achieved, don't just, oh well, nobody not giving any internship or summer work right now, so, or any sort of hired anybody school person, so that's it. No, you have to push to search the internet for posts that may not necessarily be strictly what you would want, but they can give you skill sets that are useful, right? If there is that are allowing remote work right now, and that may need somebody for a contract, a short period, right? And so
Are you still with us, Miss Henry? All right, Miss Henry, are you still with us?
I think she's still on, but her internet is really, really low.
All right, having a little technical difficulties there. But I really want to hear a little bit more what you have to say in terms of experience and going for it and all of that. Are you back with us now, Miss Henry?
She's back.
I'm back. I apologize. I don't know what just happened. Like my internet just kicked me off. What was the last thing you heard me say? I remember I was answering the question, but what was the last thing you heard?
You're talking about, it being a pandemic, you shouldn't just give up and all of that. You should still push for it and apply for stuff that might not necessarily be what you're searching for, but it might give you certain skills and stuff like that, which could add to, you overall.
Okay, awesome. So you got that. And then, so the additional, so thank you for that, Michael. Additionally to that, you can also identify a particular organization that you believe is where you may want to work or may give you experience that is valuable to where you want to go on your career or vocation. And if possible, you can always call, but it's easier to give you a no over the phone than if you go in physically. Address, present you yourself, or you might find a specific person, an HR person, and you may be able to write them. So you don't necessarily, it's what I'm saying is it's not that you're going to get proven results of, okay, you're definitely going to get a job. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just giving you strategies for things that and if you're trying multiple things, then something must work for you because you keep trying and you're trying different things. So even the law of numbers must work out for you at some point. And so one of the things that you can try, whether to go in physically than on the phone or an email, because they can see you and you may be able to talk to someone. Two, depending on the organization, if you're going physically, you're not going to get access to anybody to talk to. And you might just need to get an email of someone who is in a position or an HR person, right, who you can write an email to and volunteer your services for free. At the end of the day, if it is a temporary post and you are trying to get experience, what is your aim, income or experience? If your aim is experience, volunteer to do something. All right, you express your desire to work a part of the organization. You check if they're looking for anybody at the time, are they hiring? If they're not, you express yourself that I'm a third-year student, I'm a final-year student in mechanical engineering at University of Technology, and based on your organization and the work that you're doing, and I'd love to be a part of it to see how I can assist your organization, but also how can I grow my skill set from this organization, I have a summer period coming up for the next 3 months, and I'm willing to work or assist in any area you may deem necessary and add value to by helping you solve some of the challenges that you may have. Would you consider me for this post? If you're going to work for free and you have have some sort of skill set, they may say, okay, I'd have to pay you nothing, come. And depending on how you prove yourself, you may actually end up getting a job offer to stay. But you don't know unless you ask, and you can't get anything unless you try. So just keep trying. Those are just some ideas.
And that does work, Miss Henry. That does work. I assist with the IWE program here, the Industrial Work Experience Program, and sometimes students, they don't want to go to an organization that will not pay. But sometimes I have to, draw them aside and show them scenarios, how this thing works. And your approach, I have advised numerous students to do that, and it has worked out for them. There are students that come back to me and say, Miss, say they pay me. They actually didn't pay me, even though them say. So me say, it seems you were performing. And the student said to me, say, Miss, I go down there and see them run one process, which me I say, boy, them people, I love working. And them I use extra energy. So me just go home and do some research, and me just do a little proposal and give it to the boss. And boss said to me, say, all right, I'm going to make me in charge of the project and then pay me. And them I look for hire me. There are other students who say, Miss, because I work so well, they're drafting up a contract and they're trying to keep me on, even though they don't have a vacancy. There's one other student, when he went there, one employee was 2 years to retirement, and they kept him on to understudy the employee because he was doing so well. And he's now the manager of the unit.
That's absolutely great stuff. Absolutely great stuff. All right, by now we should be winding down. Because we're a little outside of the time that we slated for initially. But the last word from you, Miss Henry, what is the likelihood of me being fresh out of, well, this is an actual question from somebody, a student before, what is the likelihood of me being employed fresh out of university? I would have done the same IW experience, gotten the same amount of hours as everybody else and all of that. What is the likelihood of me being employed right out of university?
I'm sorry, Michael, the internet seems to have been breaking up again. Could you repeat the question for me, please?
All right, so the exact question is, what is the likelihood of being employed in your field of study right after completing your university undergraduate studies?
What's the likelihood of that? So you want a probability, a percentage?
In essence, they're looking for more hope.
Yes, I can't give you a specific number to say, okay, there's 70%, 80% probable. That's it. I can't. But if you how do I phrase? If you are trying, let's look at it like that. Some persons say it's luck, right? But I've actually heard that there's a formula to luck. I can't remember the exact formula, but there are several components that I remember: preparation, observing opportunities, and consistency. Right? Defining luck. And some people will say, okay, they get a job right in their field right after university, and that's just luck. Yeah, but luck, or it may be that they were really, really prepared. They were studying information on all these different organizations. They were applying to multiple organizations. They were talking to people. They were using hard to find a post. They weren't waiting until after they finished to find a post, maybe to find a position. Maybe from there in second or third year, they were working and looking for posts and making applications. They prepared. And so that when they actually had or were able to observe an opportunity, they didn't make it past them. And for example, and see the opportunity because they weren't so busy doing everything else that the other students were busy doing. When you're a college student, and we know that when you're a college student, there are other things that may occupy your time, right? And so I say good luck is when opportunity preparation, right? And also the consistency of trying. a lot of us, when we say, okay, I'm going to try something. And so it's even, I don't even like that word trying, consistency of trying. It is constantly going after something, no matter what result you get, because trying gives the impression that I'm going to try, and if I get the results I want, great. If I don't want, I stop. So sometimes I don't even like that word try. And you know, it's much better that you actually train yourself or be determined to not stop until you get the results that you want. And so it might take you a little bit of time, and you may have to try multiple different methods, and you just be consistent. But the probability of you getting a job right out of university, area that you have studied, depends on all that you have done, for how long that you have done it, and what are you doing. Hopefully that helps.
Okay, Miss Henry. There's one text that came in. Do you think prospective employers should inform candidates who were not selected?
Should what? I'm sorry, could you repeat the question for me, please?
Do you think prospective employers should inform candidates who were not selected after an interview?
Okay. My internet seems to still be breaking up, but I think I got the question. Just to clarify, it is, you know, should employers, all the interviewers who were not successful after the interview? That was the question?
Right. Should they inform them that they were not selected?
Should they inform? They have promised to inform you. If they have promised to inform you, then if they have made a notice and they have told you upfront that they're going to inform the successful candidates, then no, they shouldn't, because they're telling you upfront what their policy is. And so you can't change the policy of the organization to make them contact you if you are unsuccessful because you want them to contact you. If they have a policy, they will let you know the policy. And if their policy is that they may contact all candidates unsuccessful. But unfortunately, most organizations, that's not their policy. You know, they have limited resources, and especially if they have a lot of candidates, to reach out to each one may not be use of the time of their human resources. And so they may make the statement to you that they will only connect or contact with the persons, the person candidates. And that's something that you as an unsuccessful candidate will have to, if you want to hear, then the onus is on you to contact the company.
Okay, well, I think that we have exhausted the topic, and I am sure that all our listeners and participants are very much enlightened and would be appreciative of your presentation, Miss Henry. Thank you for taking time out of your very busy schedule to add to the training of our student engineers. Mr. James, you have any final words?
No, it was pretty clear indeed. You know, a lot of the things that she would have actually, Miss Henry would have actually answered. You know, persons oftentimes think that, you know, a rejection letter is actually, you know, a lot of common courtesy on the side of the employer, but it's really and truly, you can't try to change the culture of the company from outside. Right. And all of that. And a lot of the things that we have asked and tried to seek answers for is really and truly depending on the culture of the company itself. Right. So very inspiring words, very good presentation. Right. Thank you very much, Miss Henry, for taking your time, your energy, your wisdom, and everything to share with, you know, us students and everything.
You are most welcome. And it was my pleasure to be with you guys once again and to share. And thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Take care, everybody. Bye.
Bye, Miss Henry.
All right, Miss Henry. All right, so this has come to, we're at a break now, I believe. All right, this has come to like the break of our entire day session. We should have, it's between 10 to 4 o'clock, right? And this is the time where we kind of stop to kind of top up. If we were in person, would have gotten the free food, right, Mrs. Grant?
Yes, the juice and the snacks.
So we couldn't have it sent to us. Well, sent to me because I want free food.
Oh Lord, how would you get that?
I mean, we have a lot of delivery companies, man.
Trust me, I've started not to trust these delivery people these days, you know. They have you wait forever.
But that's true. That's true. But this is the time where we kind of break to have our lunch and little refreshments and all of that. So that we can prepare for the rest of the afternoon session where we'll delve into more specific stuff in terms of the different disciplines and speakers for the different disciplines, right? We have we can sponsor some water. Right. Right. So Miss Barrett is sponsoring some water.
Yes, she's quenching your thirst.
Right. But for the evening sessions, I think everybody needs to have their thirst quenched, because this is where you can ask persons from the disciplines themselves, right? We have speakers for the industrial, mechanical, civil, chemical, right? All the different disciplines that we have here at Utech. Or you can have this, you'll have the speakers and you can speak to them directly. All the questions that you have and all the issues that you have, you can propose that to them, right? Well, we break now. Miss Barrett, should we come back maybe 2:15?
2:15.
2:15.